Hello and welcome to Cels, episode 69. I'm your host, Alex Schmitz. With me here today is Peter Frank.
Hello.
Andrew Gleason.
Hi.
Chase Pritchard.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Betty Baggerly.
Hello.
Hey there, guys, and we are here today to talk about a few things Evangelion related. The end of Evangelion, as well as the three Eva rebuild films.
It begins.
It does indeed. But before we dive into that, we're going to talk about a bit of news in the animation we've watched since last time. The most major piece of news I saw over this past week is that, unfortunately, Toonami has been cut back in its time slot a bit.
I was saying, like, if you say it's canceled again, I'm just
no,
not
canceled, but
Cartoon Network's not that sadistic.
It used to be from like 11:30 to like 5:30 or 6. Yeah. Now it's from midnight to 3:30.
Originally, it was just the 4 to 5, but turns out it was worse.
Can you get?
It was originally like 4 to 5, but then it turns out to be worse.
Yeah, so it was weird. They put it down like by 1 hour, and then they put it down like by 2.5 hours.
Oh God,
so
that's unfortunate.
It's weird because Toonami, like, for its run so far, has been doing pretty good ratings wise, but I guess recently they've been struggling a little because they haven't had much new on the block.
Apparently, ratings haven't been as what Cartoon Network expected.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't complain about this too much because I don't have cable, and therefore I don't watch Toonami, and like I can't. I'm part of the problem.
Flip side, I did watch the Eva movies on Toonami for the first
we
time.
did.
So that was the thing.
Because I told you about them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
they're edited, but
yeah.
Yeah, and then so that's a little bit sad. And apparently, when Kill la Kill comes on the block, which it will, like in probably next week, I think. Actually, it's like February 2nd.
next week or the week after,
or something like that. But it is coming in at the
12:30
time slot, so like the second show of the night.
It's supposed to be 11:30, but since these cuts happen, it's been moved.
If you guys haven't seen the, I showed you some of the Kill la Kill
We have
dub,
seen
didn't I?
clips from the dub, but we have not watched it.
I haven't seen the dub yet.
It's an excellent dub.
I'm
glad to hear.
I'm waiting for it to be finished because I want to watch the show again.
Well, you'll have to wait a little while because it's
Yeah.
Aniplex. They release them in 4 episodes.
I know.
and
I'm
expensive
waiting, and
Blu-rays.
it's taking forever. So,
Well, wait longer, Mr. Gleason.
See you next year.
So talking about animation we've watched since last time, I watched a show that I did not. I expected it to be good, but I didn't expect it to be this good.
Oh boy.
Because I got it for cheap over the Christmas break because I like bought a bunch of stuff on Right Stuff for their Christmas sale, and then I was looking for like, okay, I need something that's like $10 or $15 so I can get the free shipping, because you get free shipping if you're over $50 on like your order.
Yeah.
So I need some things to kind of fill in the blanks. So this was one of them I got, an anime I'd heard a lot about called Princess Tutu.
Oh yes, you talked about this.
I did. Know from the title it sounds like the girliest thing in the world.
Yeah.
it really does.
I want
does.
it to be both.
Juichi Sato and Ikuho Ato, I believe, are the main creative force behind that Princess
I see.
Tutu.
Yeah, no, it's an original anime from like the
Yeah.
2000s, early 2000s.
Sailor Moon veterans.
And it starts off as kind of like this kiddie thing, but it's actually like a giant like meta narrative about like fairy tales and tragedy and fate.
Right.
And it gets really dark and kind of crazy near the end, and it's in my top 30 anime now.
Why
Oh,
is it that
jeez.
you keep watching things that start off really cutesy and they get really, really dark and become
Because
deconstructions of their genre?
This is actually from 2004, so it's actually not that new.
I mean, yeah, it's not new, but it's not that old either, you know. But it was excellent. Like, I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. You know, you'd like it because it's really meta, because
I
like
like meta.
the writer of the story is a guy named Drosselmeyer, you know, reference to famous historical figure who died, but actually like is in the show, you know, is like kind of weaving the story of these characters throughout it. So he's constantly like breaking the fourth wall, you know, and saying, oh no, this isn't how a story should end. A story should end dark and tragically and all sorts of things.
He's dark and edgy. He's a real artist.
Clearly. And there's this great quote I got from the show that I loved, and I can't believe like a show called Princess Tutu has a line like this in it. It's, may those who accept their fate find happiness. May those who defy it find glory.
Oh yeah, you did post that. I did see
Yes.
that. I'm like, okay, then whatever, Alex.
So
Jim.
that
Okay.
was
Fortune cookie.
that was really excellent. I rewatched some of Mao Yu, which is an anime I really like. Finished Black Lagoon, Roberta's Blood Trail, which was fun. Started an anime called Birdie the Mighty Decoded, which is kind of like a sci-fi show that has pretty cool animation. You know, so good stuff. Benny, what have you been watching recently?
I'm recently started watching Soul Eater again.
Nice.
I wasn't able to finish the first time around, and then we got a new Netflix, and so I've been watching it again. I also watched, I think I mentioned last time that I watched Blue Exorcist.
Yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, Soul Eater is one of my favorites. It's very good.
We also found a spin-off of it that's like
Soul Eater or not.
Yeah, it's like a slice of life kind of one.
That one's it's kind of worth watching, kind of not. I saw the whole thing when it was airing week to week. I mean, if you're fine with like slice of life fluff, then it's good slice of life fluff set in that universe, and some of the characters from the TV show, like Maka and Soul, occasionally appear.
And they do a good job of not cramming in those characters and letting another story happen.
You know, it gets a little dark near the end, which is kind of interesting. But overall, I mean, it's not anything worth writing home about. Chase, what have you been watching recently?
Sailor Moon Crystal and Yuri Kuma.
Oh, Yuri Kuma. Episode 4 was pretty great.
It was excellent. Best episode so far, man.
Yeah, I saw some interesting commentary from people online. Like,
yeah, Ikuhara, he's just going into the backstory this quickly.
Yeah, it was interesting, though, because some people were talking about how Yuri Kuma kind of lacked, like, getting you emotionally attached to the characters in the previous
three. They were wrong.
Well, I'd argue this episode was, like, definitely my favorite. Like, the first 3 weren't bad, but they weren't really lighting my world on fire.
I actually read an analysis that apparently this whole episode was about the patriarchy.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, too. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Crystal? Because I know you're quite the Sailor Moon fan, and people really do not like Crystal.
All right, where do we begin?
Is that the remake that got done
Yeah.
recently?
It's the remake.
I was actually kind of looking forward to that because I knew the Sailor Moon was kind of a very...
Question, have you read the manga?
No, I haven't watched anything or read anything, but I knew that it was very popular, and I was like, hey, I like anime.
The thing about Sailor Moon
could be a good way to get in.
is that it's basically the manga, except some of the elements that made the manga appealing kind of feels a bit compromised, so to speak. Like, in the manga, like, there'll be parts of the show where, like, Usagi kind of, like, talks about her like, emotions for Mamoru, and it's there in Crystal, but it just feels so different. Like, it's, like, it's very... Like, I don't know how to explain it, but you guys know on how, like, in comic books, when like, characters talk in, like, monologue or something, sometimes there'll be, like, pages where it's just the words and it's just a blank, like, page of, like, white space.
Yeah.
The manga does that, but Crystal doesn't do that. So
Interesting. The biggest issue I hear, though, with Crystal is just the visual presentation, because
that's not the only problem, but believe me, that is a big problem.
Yeah,
like there's like Tumblrs like dedicated to like on how bad the animation has been. There's even like one episode that was outsourced to the Philippines. So
yeah, well, I mean, lots of like in between animation stuff is regularly outsourced outside of Japan, but
I mean,
this one in particular, Toei is really not treating very well.
The respect that it.
Believe me, it's been a major disappointment. I'd probably argue that it's probably the worst adaptation of the franchise so far. I mean,
Well,
at least the live action stuff's fun, but this has not been fun. Like, if you're a Sailor Moon fan, if you like the best like purest experience of Sailor Moon, just read the manga. Just do that, or watch the original anime to like see. If you like Star Driver, if you like Utena or stuff like that, go watch Sailor Moon. That's where the directors of those got their start on, and you could see like the beginnings of those directors go on and on and on, and yeah.
All right, Andrew, what have you been watching?
I rewatched the Ava rebuilds.
Yeah, I know. Anything else?
I watched How to Train Your Dragon 2. Does that count?
Well, that is animated, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
We had long debates about what it was teaching children.
We did have that, because it has a weird message at the end of it.
But it's not a weird message.
It is a weird message. Spoilers. Anyway, and having now seen that movie and seeing what all your hubbub was about, you people who were on my podcast, where we talked about that, it's still
Use this as a chance to plug your podcast.
We know who we are.
You have a podcast?
I do have a podcast.
He
It's
does.
about movies.
Just Shattered
It's
Discs.
called Shattered Discs.
He's
It's
better
awesome.
at plugging this than
Plugging.
You're not helping either, Benny. Anyway, I watched that, and it does not crack my top 10 movies of the year because it's not that. My opinion of How to Train Your Dragon 2 was basically the same as my opinion of How to Train Your Dragon 1, which is a good movie, but it's not anything special or anything worth writing home about or like.
And apparently it's a box office failure.
Is it
Well,
really?
it wasn't a failure, but it didn't do as well as they wanted it to.
Yeah,
They pushed back the release date of 3 like by a year.
Did it come out against something? Wasn't that like a thing?
How to Train Your Dragon 2?
Yeah.
It might have. I don't
think
remember.
it came out against like Interstellar and stuff.
No,
that was
Big
Big
Hero
Hero
6.
Okay.
Big Hero 6 came out that weekend, and both of them performed very well.
I believe they
Actually, and now I'm upset that like How to Train. Now I'm even more upset that How to Train Your Dragon 2 A won the Golden Globe and B is nominated for an Oscar while the Lego Movie isn't, because the Lego Movie is like
Oh boy, here we go.
infinitely
No, that's
better.
Here we go.
I mean, we talked about this. Lego Movie, in my opinion, is a better movie.
Infinitely better.
I wouldn't say it's infinitely better because How to Train Your Dragon
leaps
2, in
and
my
bounds.
mind, is very good. But
It's not How to Train Your Dragon 2 is not a bad movie.
Apparently, the
It's just-
Academy likes the box trolls better.
yeah, apparently.
God. Ugh.
Pete,
That
what have you
was
been watching
good.
recently?
though.
I have watched the first 3 episodes of Cowboy Bebop. This is my first
Nice.
time watching it, so careful what you say.
HD remake? I mean, HD
Blu-
remaster, sorry.
The Blu-ray.
Yeah,
No.
I already
You
spoiled
weren't here
some,
for the
There's a
Cowboy
cowboy
Bebop
in
podcast,
space.
right?
Yeah, I wanted to be there, but I couldn't.
Is that a spoiler?
You say that, but there are people that are already trying to ruin things. for
Spoiler
me.
alert, there's a
So-
movie.
I
wasn't
spoiled
trying to
something for
ruin it.
Ryan by accident.
What'd you spoil for Ryan?
You didn't hear that?
No.
Okay, well, forget about that.
Well, and then
about that.
also what was I just thinking of? I don't know. Nothing important, to be honest.
All right, fair enough. Nothing important. So we're going to dive into our discussion by starting with something we talked about briefly on our discussion of the TV show, the Neon Genesis Evangelion podcast that we did. Yes, we do, Andrew.
Movie
because-
sucks. 1
Yes.
out of 10.
I like his thing. I was gonna give it like 2 out of 10, but okay.
There's
whatever.
a fight scene.
Yeah, that part's cool.
So-
That gives it 1 star.
Yes, End of Evangelion, 1997, actually animated primarily by Production IG, not by Gainax. Interesting little note.
Yeah.
Yeah, the End of Evangelion, kind of controversial, true ending, quote unquote, to the franchise.
I'll say this about Evangelion. After the movie was made, Anno seriously considered suicide. I'm not making that up.
I know you're not making it up, but it's just, I don't know. It's interesting though because I know he and Tsurumagi. What's the Fooly Cooly director's name?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he talked about how like he actually sorry Alex, but he admitted in an interview that he did really want to direct it. He wasn't, and really no one was apparently in the mood to like actually work on more. They wanted to do more Evangelion stuff, but production apparently wasn't that great.
Interesting. I don't know, but what I was going to bring up was that both Anno and him have like defended the end of the TV show ending, saying like, no, we're proud of what we did. This is what we wanted to do.
They were proud with the finale. of it,
but at the same time, then they kind of, I guess, caved into the pressure of the fans who wanted to see.
Yeah, it was more of the case
the-
like, yeah, we should do more Evangelion. This is really fun.
And makes money.
then they split Death and Rebirth, and then shit got real.
It certainly did. Because I was reading that apparently, I don't know where I saw that, but that episode 25, or the script basically for
Yeah.
episode 25 of the TV show
Yeah.
was the first half
Oh
of
yeah,
the movie.
basically the first half of End of Evangelion was written during the TV series. 26 that came when they made the movie. That they didn't write the second half during the series.
Which is the bigger half of the problem in this movie
Yes, it is.
than the first half, though the first half isn't that good either. So,
Yes. It's good when the very first scene is "I'm so effed up"
Oh,
from
boy, that
Shinji
scene.
Akari.
Oh God.
at least he's acknowledging it.
Well, I guess, but I
That's
don't
a
know.
plus.
You wouldn't believe it how many times I've heard people say, "Oh, I respect Anno so much." Like he's telling you right off the bat that he hates otakus, and he's telling you what the movie is all about. I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, I've heard that before too. It was interesting though that you mentioned that because on the podcast that we did before, Chase, you mentioned that you thought that End of Evangelion and the end of the TV show were like equal. They were like the same.
Yeah, basically it's like a theoretical thing. Like there's some people who believe it's separate, some people who believe it's like one and the same. It's complicated. No one really has an answer
arguments
for that.
against
Right.
how this is like a completely separate entity and has literally nothing to do with the TV show.
Well, I think it's interesting to bring up because some people, like you say, theorize that the end of the TV show happens around the time that
Yeah,
Shinji goes full instrumentality,
yeah,
and that's what he's thinking in his
Yeah,
head.
it went through Shinji's head as the movie goes on.
But the
yeah.
problem with that, in my mind, is that I think the film and then the TV show portray two different types of human instrumentality.
right.
In the TV show, it's portrayed as like everybody's hearts kind of coming together and having to deal with their own issues, whereas in End of Evangelion, it's like a
All
thing where
hearts
like
are separated.
everybody everybody's together and yet everybody is alone, and like Shinji's there like alone in the ocean of pink or orange tang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Basically, my thoughts were
that's
going. That is just do whatever makes you happy. If you feel
Yeah.
like they're the same, go for it. If they're different, they're different. Bingo, move on.
I think they're so very different though, because like they even changed his character though. Like,
Well, all right, he's way more depressed in End of Ava than he was even
he's
in the
way
TV
more
show.
depressed, and they make his depression not about like his need
Abandonment.
for like
Ooh,
love
this
and
stuff.
people to be like, like need for people to like love him or like is like at least care for him in some way.
In Evangelion, no one loves Shinji apparently.
Yeah, they know everybody loves him, and then they turn it into like like a need for like sexual frustration because it becomes very Freudian. All the imagery becomes very sexualized.
Not as if
Yeah.
all of Evangelion wasn't Freudian.
I'm not. No, it really wasn't that much. That took it to new levels.
If anything, Ono really likes Jun philosophy.
I agree with that, and yes, End of Ava took it to new levels, but those were always there. The sexual undertones and
There
the
were
Freudian
some
undertones were there.
Freudian undertones, but like I never felt like all of Shinji's depression stemmed from sexual repression, like the movie made it out to be.
I suppose. I will admit the whole bit where Masato kisses him and says like, we'll do more grown-up things when you come back or something. Like
weird.
it was like,
One
yeah.
of these things will motivate him.
I love
pretty
that
out of
scene,
character.
but I'll keep my thoughts on myself.
Like
on
what
that.
she says before that, where she's like telling him to like wake up and not be a putz.
Yeah.
That was good. The
basically
kiss is the problem.
Basically, it was the first time Misao just flats out tells her on how she feels about him.
But the one thing that we can all agree was amazing is the Asuka fight scene.
That's where the 1 star comes from.
Because that was awesome.
I wish I could remember the animator's name, but there's like people in the anime scene who like really respects the animator on that scene.
I can talk about that actually because I am a Sakuga nerd and I know these things.
Good.
So
yay.
there's a portion of the whole fight where she's fighting all of the different modified Avas that was animated by a guy named Mitsuo Iso,
Yeah, that's him.
who basically kind of came up with like this. That's where he had animated on things before then, but that's where like he really came into being famous because he did this thing where he called full limited animation. Anime is a limited animation medium. They will draw on what's referred to as, all animators draw on what's referred to as 1s, 2s, and 3s, which is like basically how many drawings there are per frames of animation. So if you're drawing on 1s, there's
It's
one
very
drawing.
fluid.
One drawing per one frame of animation. It's fluid, but it's also kind of like
Right.
slower. If it's like a fight scene, you're seeing all the movement of
If
that
it's-
arm.
If it's 2, it moves every 2 frames.
Right, and then it's 3 is, 3 frames, 4, so on, and then with anime, it's typically a more limited medium because of the money things and just the point of the style versus Disney films.
Don't be surprised if it goes on 3s.
Exactly. But, and so what a key animator usually will do is draw the keyframes, like the most important poses of that action, and then in-betweeners will come in and like draw in the things in between, to match his style, and that's how it is made.
Then it goes to other anime studios and
Exactly. But this guy, Mitsuo Iso, did a thing which he called Full Limited, where he basically animated the entire part of the fight scene on 3s by himself, and every frame was a keyframe. So there were no in-betweens, just every frame was a keyframe he drew so he could maintain control over the movement himself. And so it created this kind of like thing that's fluid but not like totally fluid, and just looked really cool. Like it's about the part I think where Asuka stabs the knife and breaks it, and then
I love that part.
and then she when she picks up the sword of the other Avas and starts like hitting him with it, and you really feel like the weight of the movement of the Ava, because she's like really has to move that sword in order to make anything happen. That was him.
yeah, it's the weight all the other animators love.
Exactly, and that was a big inspiration for a lot of animators who saw that movie.
Like there was like one animator from Space Dandy Kids on the Slope that I don't remember. He specifically specified that scene in an interview.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That fight, I still say, is probably like maybe the coolest fight in the entire series, just from an animation perspective.
Hence why 2 out of 10 stars for this
Although-
movie. 1 star goes to that fight scene. The other star is because I have to give it 1 star.
Though the other unfortunate part of that
0.
Pete was bringing up was that right before that you have that crazy scene where Asuka suddenly hears the voice of her mom inside the Ava, and it's like, "Mom, you were actually with me the whole time."
That is my problem with it. Like, I get that it's a cool scene, but I can't say that it is my favorite fight scene in all of Ava just because the context of it ruins it for me.
Yeah, the Karu fight in episode 24 is way better.
I don't even remember that one being that good. I would say, like, in the TV show, like Asuka's
Yeah.
introduction, the dance
good.
fight.
I love
stuff
the
like
dance
that.
fight. The dance fight was awesome.
And also when Asuka goes ham on the army was also awesome.
Oh, that was awesome.
But then, things really start going crazy in the second half, and Anno loses his mind, and
We
it
stopped
is-
paying attention.
it is visually, like,
I tried.
stunning. Like,
It is- no, it is a
Doubling
really,
down, doubling down.
it is a really
Indeed.
like pretty
Doubling
apocalypse.
down.
Like a really well illustrated, really like interesting apocalypse. Like from a visual aspect. Yes.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's what I saw. Like, it's one of the most creative depictions of apocalypse I've ever seen. In terms of visuals and music, the movie is great.
Yes.
From a story perspective,
From
it's
literally everything else is just trash.
Basically, the second half of the movie can be described with 2 words. You're despicable.
the last line of the series. Or isn't it "You're disgusting"?
It's you're disgusting, but I like to think that that's what Oscar really said.
Yeah, I will say there was one scene in there that because like I said before, the whole thing about Shinji, being this like depressed and like just to the point where
Shutting
Misato
down.
is literally dragging him around to do anything.
Right.
I don't buy because he wasn't that depressed in the TV show. But if we're buying that we're like pushing Shinji to this point, then the scene where he's like doing Inhuman Instrumentality, he's talking to Asuka like in the kitchen scene, and she like knocks
yeah.
over the coffee and like is telling him all these things, and he
Yeah.
asks her like, help me. And she just says like no, like really coldly, and
And
just
ba-
kind of quiet for a little bit, and then he
bas-
chokes her,
basically
and
criticizes
calm
him.
Sister Todd starts playing, and everything starts tumbling down, and it's like
Let
okay,
me
if we're
down, let me
if we're
down.
buying into this idea that Shinji's totally
This
depressed
screwed up.
and is gonna kill Asuka and cause the apocalypse, let's just go full force with it,
And then it goes live action.
and it does, and that was really weird.
And in
is
fact, fun
definitely
fact, there's actually an alternative live action scene to that. Apparently, what happened is that the actresses for Asuka, Rei, and Misato were actually in this live action world, and we follow Asuka around or something. And in the end, we hear like Shinji talk to Asuka in God mode or something, and apparently Shinji, the last quote saying, "I am not here" or something like that. So apparently, Ono had other plans in mind for that live action scene, but he changed his mind apparently.
Oh yeah, and I want to clarify something because on the last podcast I said that I preferred the end of Evangelion to the end of the TV
Really?
show.
Really?
And yeah, I know Andrew's mad at me about that. So here's the way I look at it. Right, both of them have huge story problems that I win too. However,
Yeah.
Oh yes, I remember.
However, I'm sure you do. However, the TV show, like I said on the TV show, the stuff with like Misato, Asuka, Rei, when we were in their heads, like that at least raised some interesting questions.
It does.
Those questions didn't go anywhere, but at least it was interesting. So there's more good character and story in the TV show ending than there is in End of Eva, which is pretty much devoid of any of that.
It really is
But
devoid of-
on the other hand, the TV show is really boring to watch because of the visual issue.
I like a lot of the visuals.
I understand. I'm saying from
The-
my perspective.
The end of the TV show is philosophical. The end of Evangelion is psychological. That's how I view it.
Yeah, that's not a bad way of viewing it. Whereas End of Evangelion, while story-wise a complete mess, at least was visually and audibly like
True.
very interesting to watch.
And I will give it that. Like, it's well animated. It's, a really cool, from a visual standpoint, conceptually. Like, it's a really cool, like, depiction of, I guess, Revelations is what they were going for.
Yeah, I mean it's the end of the world.
Yeah, so...
At least it wasn't done in 3 days.
it's true.
I would really not want to watch that in 3 days.
Yeah. And then we have the, controversial scene at the end where he gets back and decides the only thing he can do is choke Asuka, and she says, "How disgusting."
I don't even, like...
Or I feel sick, but
I don't
no one knows what that line
even
is.
know why that's controversial at that point, because like by this point we should have already
Yeah.
been like so far gone and fed
yeah,
up with everything.
actually,
so-
okay, fine.
Actually, there's actually an interesting story behind that last line. Apparently, according to Asuka's voice actresses, there was another line planned for that ending. I think it was something along the lines of, "I can't believe someone like you would do something like that." But apparently, either Ano or herself wasn't a big fan of that. So Ano says, "Okay, Asuka's voice actress. If some stranger came into your house and saw and masturbated over you or something, what would you say?" And she said, "How disgusting," or "I feel sick," or whatever. It goes, and then Ano basically said, "All right, we'll go with that."
Sure.
Interesting way to get inspiration for the line. Because my issue with it is that Shinji's all like, basically decides, let's kill humanity in End of Evangelion. Then he talks to Rei a little bit in the LCL and decides, never mind, I changed my mind. Let's not be all alone. And Inhuman Instrumentality kind of sucks, because once again, TV show, he accepts human instrumentality.
Well,
In End of Eva, he rejects it, even though that rejection isn't really well established, in my opinion. But then he arrives back on Earth. He and Oscar are like literally the only two human beings we know that are alive, and then he chokes her. So it's like if he's gone through some sort of like revelatory growth, then he just dives right back down in the last scene.
There's actually a trading card that explains that scene.
A trading card?
Yeah.
Weird place to get things from, but okay.
All right. What were you going to say, Andrew?
No, I was just gonna say that like there should be like, I don't know, it's just so stupid and it doesn't make any sense, and none of it makes any sense. Like the ending where he just decides to choke her, I'm like, okay,
Fine.
But by that point I was so fed up,
So done.
and
I
just
remember
so not
because I brought you two over to watch End of Evangelion because you were so high on the TV show
was in love
after
with the
the
TV
time, and I
show,
was
yeah.
like, well, I don't know if you're going to love it or hate it, because some Eva fans love it and some Eva fans hate it.
And I hated
And then
that
afterwards, Jeremy brought us back up with the G.I. Joe movie,
We
which
did
That
watch
was
it.
great.
was
I love that
awesome.
I love that.
That movie was
a lot of
stupid,
fun.
campy as crap.
A lot better than that End of
will-
Eva.
It's true.
The only thing G.I. Joe the movie's going to be remembered for is it's the reason Optimus Prime died.
I know, how sad. All right, so now we're done with End of Evangelion.
Okay, so now we can talk about good movies, right?
We can move
Well,
on
two of
to the
Well,
rebuild
I
of
would say
Evangelion. The rebuild of Evangelion, which in the December 2006 issue of New Type, Anno revealed that he was happy to finally recreate Eva, quote, as he wanted it to be, unquote, in the beginning, and that he was no longer constrained by technological and budget limitations.
Yeah, he also went on and he said philosophical stuff about why he wanted to do the series again, but I can't quote it on the top of my head. I think you told me you have a quote on that.
Well, I mean, that was the quote I had.
Ah,
Yeah, but anyways, so, and he formed this new studio, Studio Kara, which he took a lot of the people from Gainax, to form the studio. I think partially maybe because there's some like rights issue between Anno and Gainax about like who owns Evangelion, because there's a reason why the Blu-rays of the show have not come out until like this year.
the only thing I know is that Studio Car was made just so Anno can make the Rebo movies.
Exactly. So,
Oh,
then-
actually, I just remembered. Apparently, what happened was that Gainax wanted to do Gurren Lagann, but Anno wanted to do the Rebo movies. So a decision was made was that Anno would go make his studio to make the movies, while Gainax focuses on Gurren Lagann.
well, there you go. We got Gurren Lagann
Profit.
from Gainax. So
we made out. We made out.
I'd say that worked out from
Profit.
best by end.
So yeah. we're
All
good.
right, so we have to start with Eva 1.0, You Are Not Alone, released in 2007 in Japan, which is basically a retelling of the first 6 episodes of the TV show, relatively straight, with a lot of minor changes.
That helped make it under
And
understanding.
some major changes, like the fact that the sea is red.
Nah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Bringing up all sorts of conversations about whether the rebuilds are like a redoing of the TV show, because this is after the end of
Yeah.
Evangelion.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of evidence to like just watching through the movies, because I've watched them twice now in the last month, all 3 of them. And
You do know if you believe that End of Evangelion is canon,
I
right?
know. Shh. We're trying
Well-
to forget that.
But I thought, see, what I think is, though, what kind of puts a hole into that theory is because in 2.0, they talk about how the ocean wasn't red before the second impact.
Well, see, a lot of people point that out that like End of Eva became the second impact again, and there's some weird time travel distortion crap going on. I don't know. There's some other
heard of
stuff
this.
that points to like some of the stuff that Karu says.
No, I mean, there's a lot of things that point to it. I'm just saying that, like, that if the sea was blue before then, does that End of Eva theory still hold up?
I did look it up with like some information on the second impact, because apparently it was like the melting of the ice cap, like Antarctica melted.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the TV show because
Yeah.
that killed a lot of people.
Yeah, and then and then there were some wars and bad things happened.
Some wars,
And
bad
somehow
people
the
died.
And now
Nation of
apparently
Japan
it
is
poisoned
totally
the
cool.
entire ocean, so yay.
Yay.
Us.
Let's not have the polar ice caps melt, apparently. That's bad.
Yeah, don't do that.
So yeah, it's basically the first 6 episodes of the TV show just kind of streamlined into movie format. Cut
Look,
some fluff out.
I've kind of a
There actually is a difference between rebuild and TV series. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I should probably explain. So I should probably talk about how the show was written. You mind if I go on about this for a second?
Well, we talked about that a bit on the TV show podcast, how the whole thing wasn't written out from the very beginning, and it would go that another writer would come in, write a script,
Right.
and then Anno would rewrite that script.
Yeah, basically a rebuild, it was different. I don't want to do something different. Basically, he wanted more people to be involved with the script. He wanted more people to like actually be involved with the script and actually change the series for good or something. Like he made it more profound when we get to 2.0 and 3.0. But basically the way Anno wrote the movies was, or at least he wanted to make it completely different from the series.
Yeah, that is interesting. One little change I do quite like is the whole bit where Shinji runs away. You know, he runs away and then he like reaches like the edge of the town and like there's nowhere he can go, and he turns around and the dudes in the suits are just there like waiting for him. It's kind of like that idea that Nerve is always watching him and he can't really escape.
They
Exactly.
didn't even say it like a line of dialogue. Like, you can leave, but they'll keep watching you.
Yeah.
I know the ending of that scene's like different from the TV show. It's like Shinji says, "I know you guys are there," and then he apparently goes back or something. Like he's not very self-reflective over the scenes from episode 4 than from the TV show.
Yeah. The only thing, you know, I'll go more on the 3D and the rebuild films and the later ones because this one is, for the most part, just 2D.
Purist.
I am a purist, I'll admit it. But the 2D on the second Angel, the one with like the weird like claws on its belly, I thought that one looked kind of bad. Like, why did that one not? Why did that one have to be 3D? Why couldn't it have been 2D?
know.
It was admittedly less good than the Angel that followed it, but I didn't find it
Yeah,
too
like the 3D,
egregious.
the 3D use on the Diamond Angel makes sense
That was
and was
awesome.
awesome.
That was awesome. I
That
love
was awesome.
fight.
I will not deny that. You know, where it makes sense, I am fine with it.
Also, that sequence makes a lot. That sequence is a lot better in the movie because, like, the first time we watched it, like, what? He just walks up, looks up, gets blasted in the TV show. Well, that was a poor choice on everybody's part.
Yeah.
This time, at least, they like fought. Like, okay, no, raise the blast shields.
The number of times they just used terrible door placement of the robots to screw up a fight just infuriated me in the TV shows. Like, well, now I see why he's terrified of getting in the robot, because the
also,
second he steps
the
foot in
first
one,
Angel,
he
you
gets
know,
shot.
Just stabbed him in the face. Like, do you want to get stabbed in the face?
No.
No. That hurt.
Yeah, and I don't know, I because they do cut out a little bit, some bits from the TV show, like the whole bit where Shinji was gonna go away and like get on the subway, you know, and like Masato was there and found him, and because he didn't go on the subway, sort of thing, you know. So like that's totally cut out, and I don't know what it is because, you know, writing wise, it's almost the same as the TV show, you know, version of
Yeah.
those episodes.
Yeah.
But I
There's
do
a little bit
think,
more Rei.
but I do think that, you know, Shinji and Rei do come off better than they do in
They
the
do.
TV show counterparts.
You can actually
Yeah.
see the ship kind of starting to sail a little bit.
Yeah.
There's
Just
a
a
pretty
little
full
bit.
character
Arno
arc for them.
has said that in the TV show he felt like that Ray's character was like done by episode 6 of the original show. So I'm guessing that with the movies he actually has time to think about it and actually fix that, so to speak.
Yeah,
is
you
kinda
know,
rough.
and there is some changes. You know, Masato shows him Lilith near the end.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Like, wait, we're explaining the plot to Shinji. What?
You
Crazy.
know, yeah, which is interesting because in the TV show, he didn't get shown that for a long time after that, and it was Kaji, you know,
Yeah.
called him Adam, and all
Episode
those
18.
things. Yeah, you know, so they really kind of hurried that along, which I think was probably smart.
That was a good choice.
You know, and then we talked about how they don't mention the Magi nearly as much in the
They
reruns.
bring it up in passing a couple times, but
And unlike the TV show, Sele is never shown in their human forms. They're just shown as the
there's some
tablets.
speculation as to whether or not Sailor are like actual people.
Yeah,
in
I've heard about
this- in this version of the universe.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, one thing that I would say is with this Magi system, since it's only referred to in passing, you could almost think that it's genuinely like 3 wise men or prophets that are supposed to be making these things. They never actually refer to them as computers.
You can kind of infer.
Well, we can because we watched the show.
Even without that, like, it wouldn't be like 3 wise men because that would be strange, and like they would show those as characters.
in a movie
Right.
that is obsessed with biblical symbolism.
They would show those as characters if they were like people.
Yeah.
That'd be strange just to like have 3 dudes sitting in a desert or whatever. Like, yeah, we came up. Hey, what are your calculations on if this thing is gonna hit us in the face from space?
We have the treasures for baby Shinji. The star led us here.
Yeah, see, crap
He's
like
the-
that.
He's the chosen one.
He's apparently Jesus. So
And it should be noted that Benny here has not actually seen the TV show or End of Evangelion and watched the movies 3, 1, 2
Yeah, in that order.
because I showed 3.0 at my place
why did you
first.
come over for 3.0? Like,
Interesting.
You were there.
no, I know. I was there because I had seen them.
The
Why did
question
you
is,
watch
so
3.0 first?
Did you
I,
like
did,
it?
I liked it. I thought the visuals were great. I mean, I was glad to find out that not being entirely sure what's going on is normal for Evangelion.
Hey, we kind of
Yeah.
3.0 made a little bit more sense when you actually have context, though.
But Benny, what were your thoughts on 1.0? Because you don't know about the first 6 episodes of the TV
I
show.
don't.
So what do you think of 1.0?
I really liked it, and I think that story structure-wise, it was really well planned out, and the dialogue was really good. From what I've heard of the original series, it seems like there's a lot of improvements. One of my favorite part of the whole series is just the visuals were really, really nice.
Yeah, well, and obviously, compared to the TV show from the 90s, this version, it looks a lot better.
Well,
And I know you didn't exactly like the 3D, but I thought
Some of the 3D. Some of the 3D is fine.
Yeah.
Some of it is bad, in my opinion.
I thought that they did a good use of it. They didn't put too much of it in the wrong spots.
1.0, I don't have a problem with the 3D, really. Except for that one angel. But that's beside the...
It's not even on that screen that
yeah,
long,
I mean,
so
it's not a major thing. I'm not going to bitch about it anymore.
That's like a slight gripe. That's like we're getting picky. I really liked 1.0, though. I thought that was... People describe this
even
as like
the 3D,
version.
even still, it's so close to looking like 2D that it's almost convincing.
Yeah, and then at the very end, we get that shot of Kaoru on the moon, kind of
Being
foreshadowing
weird and
into
stuff.
the
He also
next
says
film.
some weird thing like, so it's the third child again.
Yeah, he says a lot of things like, again.
And he refers to Gendo as father.
Yeah, that's in the second film, but yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, so it's the third child again. Well, I can't wait to meet you, Shinji Ikari. And I'm like, okay. Strange.
What are you doing,
But
Kaoru?
whatever.
Is the moon dust getting to your head, Kaoru?
So what about that moon dust?
All right, so then we have the second film, Eva 2.0 You Cannot Advance, released in 2009. And this is the one where things really start deviating, because it's a mix of the old and the new.
Some people complain about that, but I actually really like 2.0. I think 2.0 is awesome. So
Yeah. I'd be curious, Chase, what are your kind of thoughts on the rebuilds in general? Because I know there's some fans who really kind of see the rebuilds as like the Hollywoodized version.
Oh man, I
of
know
Evangelion.
people who compare to Michael Bay films.
Yeah.
Whoa,
That's unnecessary. That is rude.
Whoa,
That is
just
rude.
mean.
Yeah, but I know there are people like that in the Evangelion fan base.
That's mean.
Just
Oh,
wondering
yeah.
where you come down on
Oh,
the
me,
argument.
I'm fine with change. My attitude towards it is, as long as the story's interesting and as long as you have something to say, I don't care if you change it. It's better to adapt than be faithful, if you ask me. So honestly, if you ask me, I think the third movie's the best. So, but
Oh, well, we'll talk about that.
but I really, honestly, I really like the first one. I think there was a lot of interesting things going on with it. And the second movie, a lot of great things it has too. I really like the characterizations of pretty much everyone in that movie. So
Yeah, well, 2.0 starts with an interesting thing where we see Mari fight this one angel in Unit 5.
along with singing a 1960s Japanese song.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah,
There's a lot
it's
of,
from the
older
60s.
songs.
Interesting. But Mari is an interesting choice to me because really so far she has not proved in both 2.0 and 3.0. I don't see what purpose she serves beyond being there to be cool in battles.
Yeah, basically that was another change. I believe it was Sanamo actually who created that character, or at least the one who visually created the character. I think he said that he wanted Mari to be some sort of British-esque character.
I want to call her British.
Yeah.
It didn't
Oh,
come
she
out
is
to me.
from Euro.
She's from
I mean,
the
I get
Euro team, but like Asuka, but
I mean, there is that scene where she talks in English. So,
Okay, well, see, we watched the dub of
did watch the
2.0.
well, the Japanese version, there's this scene where she talks on the phone. She was speaking it in English.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
makes sense.
I believe that.
Yeah. But I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on Mari, just in general? Because I personally kind of see her to be something the rebuilds added, but I don't see what she adds to the series beyond cool
Yeah.
fight scenes.
I don't mind her personally.
I don't have any real problem with her. I think she's there's a lot of potential for her to be really interesting because she's the only person who has no crippling emotional issues, who pilots these things.
that we know of, at
In
least.
fact, she likes it so much that she almost feels like she's manipulating everybody else to let her fight these things, to the point where she's actually willing to let the world burn so that she gets to fight more things in an Eva.
She's probably the happiest character in the
Yeah,
franchise.
damn it. There's a TV tropes term for that, like blood warrior or something like that.
yeah. She's really bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
Vegeta?
Hmm?
Like Vegeta?
Like Vegeta, yeah.
She's
Somebody
kinda like
lives
that.
for the battles.
She's kind of like that because even at the beginning they're like, After that first scene that they introduced her, and the guys were like, God, don't you just feel bad that we have to use children for this? And she just like gets out of the thing like, God, I just feel bad about using the adults for this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of like you already. Like, I don't need much in you. And then she really understands how to pilot this thing, because she makes you two go beast mode, which was awesome.
It was awesome.
I enjoy her.
Also the sarcasm.
Yeah. I also especially enjoy many of the times she talks to Shinji, she does a lot of real talk with him. And it's like, you just sitting here on the battlefield is going to do literally nothing. And another point in time, she just like looks at him and says, you really got to sort yourself out, man. Try and figure out how the world works. She's the only one that like doesn't actively insult him, but also talks to him.
She more passively insults him.
Passive insults.
I don't know. Her and Asuka's banter by the third one is like fantastic. So
Just always calling her
I love
eyes.
those two.
OTP.
A lot of people do think that. A lot of people see that.
Of course, people ship it. They ship everything.
After 3.0, Asuka has not been the same.
I bet. So then we also have like there's the whole thing where they visit the aquarium, and the big one of the big changes in this movie.
Oh, Alex, I should probably mention like his or her circumstance music from Anno's next series at the Evangelion. Music throughout that series plays throughout most of the second movie. I thought that would be interesting to know.
Interesting. Was Shiro Sagisu the composer for that as well?
Uh-huh.
Interesting. But the big thing this movie does, improving on over the changing from the original series, one of the things is developing Rei and Shinji, more as like a ship, a couple.
Like, I'm an Asuka shipper in the show, but like
Asuka as who?
Well, Asuka with Shinji.
With Shinji. Like, as in the show. But in this movie, I'm like, no. This movie clearly wants Shinji and Rei to be together. Yeah. So, and it works really, really hard, and I think it comes off really well, because Rei actually develops a character.
Yeah, but Benny actually made a really interesting point after seeing it, where you actually still thought that Rei was a really passive character when you first saw it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, well, she is.
She is a really passive character. Like, we're so thrilled by just her saying thank you at one point because we're used to the show.
But as Benny smiles in this movie.
She does smile.
Yeah, but as Benny points out, she's still really reserved and still like so awkward, and it could really be misconstrued as like this is not the best.
No,
at least her and Asuka are friends in this.
No, they're not.
Well, friendly.
Ray and Asuka argue a lot.
I'm not necessarily saying it was bad. I liked her character.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that, and it's probably exactly like you said, because you guys have seen the show, and in the show you said she was emotionless totally.
Yeah. She's a robot.
And so that was a big deal for you, but for me it was just like it seems like she was still being emotionless.
See, here's the thing though, is that like it's supposed to be like a very subtle like very subtle things that like the fact that she is smiling or that she does say thank you those are supposed to like speak a lot more volumes for her, like even if, like
it totally speaks more volumes,
especially
to somebody
after watching 1.0.
Yeah, if you've seen the show too, it also gets more has more
to
meaning.
People who watch the show, it has like a lot of meaning, but like I think that like that still would come across.
It still came across. It still had the meaning. It was just that like I didn't quite see what was so important about it, because it seemed more like she was doing it because it was polite and not because she wanted to say thank you.
No, but like she also smiled, and that's like showing emotion, and that's like a different.
I think it does get to an interesting point though, just about watching the rebuilds in general, because a lot of fans have been introduced to Evangelion through the rebuilds rather than through the TV show. But there is a certain satisfaction, I think, to watching the rebuilds if you're a fan of the TV show, because you see the characters act very differently than they did in the TV show. Rei actually having a personality, Shinji actually growing a pair and fighting for something at the end of the movie, I think has a lot more impact to TV show fans, because we've just seen Shinji be a depressed kid for 26 episodes, Mm-hmm.
But him fighting for something so vehemently when the relationship is still kind of shallow, as in like, oh, you invited me to dinner.
No, that means something.
No,
it means something to
don't
us.
Underplay. Don't underplay that.
No, and I agree with you, Andrew. It is definitely growth for her character, and it's a good relationship, and it works within the movie. But if we compare the relationship between Rei and Shinji to the relationship of I don't know, Taiga and Ryuji from Toradora, or any other like romance anime.
No. See, now you're making comparisons because like she's not human. Like that's a thing. That's like, okay. So here's a good comparison: Data from Star Trek: Next Generation. Like, how many like small things meant so much to him? Like just the small things, the tricks, the having the cats, the trying to learn poetry and music.
Don't forget the Life Form song.
Exactly. Like, it's the small things with Rey, because those are it's like overcoming like a very deep seated thing, because she is like not a human. Like,
I understand, and I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying that, like,
not saying
once again,
the best
to
romance.
somebody like Benny who just hadn't seen the TV show and didn't really know what Rey's character was quote unquote supposed to be like, it just comes off as like, fine relationship, but not that like groundbreaking,
Well, I mean, like,
I think worth ending the world over.
Well, no. See, and we're gonna talk about that here in a minute. But don't underplay the dinner thing, because that was trying to repair the relationship between Shinji and his father, which is like the whole goal of that, which is like one of the central conflicts.
I get the impression you like this movie more.
I do like this movie.
I like this movie a lot too.
I'm not trying to offend the movie at all. I'm just saying when I first watched it, if it comes off as offensive, I apologize.
I'm
I'm
not offending the movie.
offense is not my intention.
We forgive you, Benny.
Okay.
Little plot point difference I thought was kind of interesting. Kaji gives Gendo the briefcase, but instead of it containing Adam, it contains the key of Nebuchadnezzar,
Which is never mentioned again.
That's not true.
He has it in 3.0. He has
have
the
it in 3.0.
case, but it's not mentioned, and he
doesn't.
doesn't do anything with it.
Well, that's because there's still machinating going on. So
It'll all be explained in 4.0.
We'll see.
I mean, having seen
Possibly.
3.0 and when I first watched 1 and 2, I was told that 3.0 would explain stuff, and I was like, I
No.
saw that one.
Actually, I was mistaken. I meant to say 3.0 plus 1.0.
Yes, 4.0
Final
4.0 is actually called 3.0 plus 1.0.
or final or repeats, or I've seen a lot of things.
Yeah, no, it's not being worked on right now, so who knows what it's going to be
I
called.
was busy with other things.
Which irks me, because like, can we just not get the end of this and just like be done, so
No,
that I can feel like,
I was more interested in exploring animation's potential or something.
can we just get this over with?
A big thing for me story-wise for the whole series, as far as the movie, because I haven't seen the show, is that like you don't often see shows where most of the time it ends with some kind of happy ending, some kind of recovery of like
Nope.
things are okay now. Like we won the day, and with them it's like with the Evangelion series, it's like we're Evangelion. Sorry, who cares?
Ava fans?
You'll be mistaken, my buddy.
Yeah. Since we brought up, I just thought I would mention it. There was a Variety article where he was being interviewed at the Tokyo International Film Festival, and he said about Ava 3.0 plus 1.0, quote, "I am definitely doing it, but I have this sort of thing, such as Animator Expo, parentheses, as well. I'm thinking that I'll return to Evangelion after I do something different." So, yeah, basically, he is not working on it. He even joked about it maybe taking 4 to 6 years after 3.0 to come out.
He's probably right, actually.
I don't want to wait that long. That's
Well,
a long
What
time.
are we watching
to
Sherlock?
not have like the end of this. I just want to see the end, so that I can feel like
First we waited 2 years, then 3, now it'll be
Some
4.
resolution. What?
yeah.
Well, actually, if he says 6 years, that's 2018.
God, I'm gonna be watching the third Avengers movie then.
Yeah, well, certainly not 2016 for sure. That would be 4 years, but that'd be next year. And if they're not working on it right now, there's no way in hell it'll be ready by next year.
Yeah, that's just being optimistic.
Yeah. So, sorry, Andrew, you're waiting a while.
I just want to
Got-
see.
gotta
I just
get
want
a-
this over
Just
with.
see the show again.
I know it does seem weird to me because like Anno was, chose to do this rebuild project. He wanted to do Evangelion the right way, but now he's like, I'm sick of Evangelion. I don't want to do 4.0.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to say was that like I was really appreciative of the fact that it ends in a different way. Like it ends with like, not all a happy ending.
And that
things.
there's actually a story behind that ending. Apparently, Anno apparently didn't know how to end that movie, so a Utano writer by the name of Yoji, you know who I'm talking about, Alex Yoji.
I don't.
Well,
actually.
basically, it was a writer who worked for Utena, Star Driver, and a couple of other anime. He also wrote for Evangelion as well. I think he wrote episode 11 or 9, I think. But apparently he was invited to like help with the story for the second movie, and apparently Yoji came up with that ending.
The ending to 3.0 or 2.0?
2.0. It's just 2.0 he was involved
Well,
with.
I mean,
believe.
it's the ending is the actual ending of the story though. It clearly isn't here yet, and that's what I was gonna say was that like what stands out for me and I see it as a challenge for them is because that's such a different thing to do, and there's no way to end this happily anymore. That's how do you finish this off? How do you conclude this? Get it where there's no real resolution that you can have.
They can do it.
You can have more people die, and there's like 3 people left in the world. I guess
there could be a resolution to this. I mean, they won't tie up every plot
but it's
thread,
it's such a different story. What I'm saying is that it's totally possible. But what I'm saying is that it's really hard to do because no one's ever gone this direction before.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on the 4.0 or 3.0 plus 1.0, I think Will Wheelay, the German organization that Misato forms, they need to, have their fight with Nerve, solve that conflict. Shinji needs to find some reason to fight because at the end of 3.0 he's really fucking depressed.
Which makes sense.
It does.
I just want 4.0 to just be like a movie-like version of mayonnaise.
Maybe Fifth Impact happens,
Final Impact,
answer questions about, like, does this actually take place after end of Evangelion?
I don't think that's ever going to get
answered. And there's also that Anime Expo short that we should probably talk about after 3.0.
Oh, yeah. You probably haven't seen that, have you?
The
so
we watched?
No, Animator Expo is this thing that Ano and Kara and all of them have been doing. They're putting out like one short every week for a total of 30 shorts. It's a pretty cool project. One of them was an Evangelion short that was set like after 3.0.
What?
Yeah, but not like, it was kind of like a lot of stills. There wasn't like a lot of animation in it, but it had some little hints and things in there for Evangelion fans.
There's an Asuka scheme with like every Asuka for like the whole franchise just like shows up one by one.
Yeah. So, we should watch that sometime. I had kind of forgotten about that actually, but that probably does have some hints about 3.0 and 4.0. But moving back to 2.0 for a minute.
That was the thing we were talking about.
Asuka is introduced in this movie, and I do think it's interesting because, when we get to the introduction of Unit 3, rather than having Toji pilot the robot, we have Asuka pilot it. Which on the one hand I think is a good decision because Toji has like no screen time in these movies.
He does not.
And so his death, or quote unquote death, wouldn't have had any real impact.
And she dies to such a happy song.
She does.
I love it. It's so cool.
That is a really cool sequence.
At the same time, though, obviously they don't kill Asuka. She just loses an eye, so they kind of wimp out on that a little bit.
Well, see, I feel like this time it makes a little bit more sense because she's like a major character versus in the show when they should have killed Toji because he does nothing after that.
Right, but at the same time, I'm curious, Benny, because you hadn't, you had seen 3.0 before you saw 2.0. But you hadn't seen the TV show, so you didn't have that attachment to Asuka, the character that we got through the TV show. So were you impacted by Asuka's death when she got devoured by Ava Unit 1 in 2.0?
I was like, I knew she was coming back because I seen her later on.
Right.
But I was still like, holy crap, they're doing this. I figured, I was waiting for Shinji to just pull out the knife and like break that little blue membrane that was keeping her in there, and then she'd like, and then he'd be like, I'm gonna kick the crap out of this angel now. But of course he didn't do that.
Dummy system.
Yep, dummy plug. Unfortunate thing.
Yeah, but he could have done that and
Like,
not had to
like,
bring out the dummy plug.
That is one of my very few complaints with this movie, and that is that there's a lot of ways Shinji could have fought the angel without killing Asuka. And thus avoided having to have the dummy plug happen. Of course, he didn't know the dummy plug existed, and so he didn't know that there was an opportunity of like his father doing something to stop him.
Which is true, but at the same time, he should know that it is possible to fight the angel and save Asuka without killing her.
Well, he was scared, but he was scared of hurting her because like that's like not an unreasonable thing. Because those things like
it's not an unreasonable thing to say, but I think Peter has a point.
But at the same time,
That is one of my very few complaints.
I don't think that's like
I thought that I would have had if I was in a situation. It's like this thing's been taken over and become an angel. Chances are she's already dead.
Or has it? Has it? Because like we just have his father's word to go on, and if we have learned anything about Gendo, is that he's kind of a jackass.
True, but I mean, it's not just Gendo. Masato and everybody in the control room is telling him it's an
Masato wasn't
angel.
there because Gendo took over control because she was out.
That's right. She was hurt.
See that because he was in charge of that mission.
Yeah.
Because if Masato was there, things might have been different. but because
That's a
she
fair
was
point.
out.
Fair point, fair
Also,
point.
I think that it felt like to me that Gendo wanted to use the dummy plug in the first place, so it was going to happen either
Well,
way.
he was trying to hasten the awakening of Unit 1, which would require Shinji to reach some kind of emotional state, a state of like self-actualization, I guess.
I don't necessarily, don't necessarily have wanted this to happen, but I think it might have been interesting if instead of going the direction they did with 2.0, if they had developed Toji more, in 1.0, 2.0, and then actually had him pilot it and then actually die.
Toji's sister actually has a expansive role compared to the series, actually.
She does.
Well,
she
she
shows
actually
up
appears.
She's in it. Crazy. And she says things at 3. But anyway. No, I agree with that on the concept. Like, that would have been cool. But I do feel like with time constraint-wise, because these are movies, like, they are already developing Shinji and Rei. And I do feel like Asuka got a decent amount of character development in the second and 2.0 for the hour she's in it.
Yeah, like during that hour she did appear in a lot of scenes, but at the same time
Also,
she
has
only
an
has
awesome introduction.
She does. But at the same time she only has, an hour of screen time before her big moment, where she's not axed off but basically all out of the movie.
Well, another big thing about Asuka in these movies is one of the reasons I liked Asuka so much in the show was because she was a breath of fresh air in a show that was really like Rei is emotionless,
a lot of energy.
Shinji's depressed, and Misato's dealing with like some actual
clandestine stuff,
like plot problems. So Asuka showing up was like a breath of fresh air to me. Like, oh, she's like, spunky and stuff and annoying, but annoying in kind of an amusing way.
Somewhat.
I like her, but
yeah, no, I mean, and
she's not that. That's not as necessary in these movies.
yeah, like in these movies, I do think they make Asuka a little less bitchy. She's partially because I think Shinji is closer to Rei, and she really gets jealous over that because probably Shinji's the only guy she's interested in.
Asuka, I don't think Asuka is like actually attracted to Kanji at all.
Yeah, they took that out. There's even an interview about Asuka's voice actor. I think it's the English one, but
Tiffany Grant.
Yeah. I don't remember which one though. But she's like, yeah. I'm really kind of sad that I didn't get to speak German, and it's weird that kanji's not like a crush thing for me right now. But otherwise, I love being Asuka. Like, and then she goes on to say like how much she loves playing Asuka because she thinks it's fun. And blah, blah, blah.
I love that when a actor plays a character in a movie, it's like not as good as when a voice actor is playing a character and like they love this character and they have genuine care, like they care for this person and like
they
I want to see
their
the
own
best
ships.
happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's always so cool to me.
So it is interesting that like that they did take out the Asuka Kanji plotline, but I guess it kind of makes sense.
Kaji also plays like a lesser role,
He
I
does.
think,
He
in the
does.
rebuilds.
He's definitely not in it, but they kept his watermelon farm. So
They did keep
that
that.
was good.
They didn't.
They did a really good
they
job
just
with it, too.
referenced it though.
no,
They're right.
He recruits Shinji.
He
to
helps
help
him with the garden.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's kinda
I
nice.
really like
paid
that
him
scene.
to do it.
That is a good scene because he like tells Shinji to like protect Masato because I can't, which was nice because Kaji knows that he's dancing on the knife's edge as it were.
Yes.
But like I said, so the movie really does move, building up the relationship between Rei and Shinji, getting to this point where we're gonna do the party and the dinner and everything's gonna be happy
And we're gonna try to fix it.
and we're gonna fix Gendo.
And there was like a whole section of the movie where even when you first watched it, you even turned to me and said like, this movie's doing a really good job of making me feel like this could actually be a good thing. And I turned to you and like, but it's Ava, so
Yeah.
it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things
Like,
are
you
not
knew
okay.
something was gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
You are not okay.
And Shinji, the whole devouring thing against Asuka's mech happens. I do think it's a little interesting that in this version, Shinji doesn't see what's going on with like
Yes.
the devouring, and I do think I kind of prefer the TV version where it actually sees
Yeah,
him kill.
That's pretty dark. Although making Asuka does make it slightly darker. So.
I mean, it does make it darker, definitely. But
combine the
what was
two.
the point of blocking his face? And
I don't know.
not like.
Although
one
one thing I would say, you guys really built up the Christian symbolism in it's totally built up. When it finally came out, I was just like, what? There's nothing in here at all.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
no Christian symbolism
There's
to
no
be found.
cross explosions.
It's like it wasn't
or
there at
anything.
all. Nothing
yeah.
at all. Nothing
not
at
at
all.
Indeed. And I do really like the scene where Shinji starts pounding on the pyramid of nerve.
Yeah,
like when he's screaming at
he
his
just
dad.
like just no. Now he's mad, and I actually like that because
It's
like
almost
he is
like
like taking things.
You
into
know
his
what
own
the funny
hands.
thing is? does, it's in End of Evangelion.
I know he kicks the sand pyramid.
He does.
Mhm.
He really does, doesn't he?
But I kind of like that scene because it almost reminds me of like a child stamping its foot in anger and having a temper tantrum.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
Gendo said. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm tired of. I'm not gonna deal with the child's tantrum. Turn him off.
Basically.
But like he's totally just, like. But I like
Really
that he gets
justified.
angry instead of like curls up into a ball and gets depressed. Like this is like, no, I'm gonna be mad. And I'm gonna blow you all up.
If you remember, actually, I referenced that in the TV show podcast because I was like, you were talking about how, Shinji was so mad. I bet you he would have just gone and killed them all. I'm like, well, rebuilds. You got something to look forward to. He tries to.
He tries.
He tries really hard.
He
Go.
was.
I also liked, I believe it's after that they do that, the thing of him on the subway with the sunset, they constantly did in the TV
Yes.
show. And I don't know, because he's doing his, Shinji depressing thing there, but there was a line I really liked where he talked about how, there were good things that happened, but in the end they always ended badly. And that's
It's a better justification.
That's a change because in the TV show he never ever ever says, good things happened to me. He's always like there were only bad things that happened to me, and I always talk about in the TV show how a lot of good things happened to him too. And this at least he admits good things happened, but it just ended.
It's just not worth it in the
It
end.
just ended badly. So I like that change. I think that flows better. I definitely think Shinji is more relatable in 2.0 than he was at this point in the TV show. Partially because we've cut out like that whole bit from like episode 7 to like 14, like all that stuff is just gone.
That stuff is pretty. But those were all like the one-off episodes where like he would just go
but
and do
they also
stuff.
cut out like the bit where like he fell into the angel for the first time and went all philosophical in his head.
That was kind of cool. That part was cool.
Maybe
One
not
thing
the
that
best, but-
did get cut out that I do genuinely miss is the episode where Shinji and Asuka like really bond, and like I get that might have gotten in the way of the Rey ship, but at the same time,
Worship
that
Rey.
not happening kind of limited the effect of him killing her because it's like we didn't see them really building their relationship.
Yeah,
as
I don't
much.
know. Like I really like her in that movie. Like I feel like she is in that hour a lot that she's in it, and she really
is
does
in that
like,
hour
have
a lot,
commanding presence.
But she doesn't like once again the like number of interactions between just her and Shinji like one-on-one. There aren't that many of them.
well, I mean, yeah, but that's because there's like a lot of stuff going on, and like, but there's also like an implied passage of time during that section.
No, and there's
so-
definitely several weeks pass or months even. But I think Peter brings up a good point once again. We are immediately attached to the Asuka Shinji relationship because of the TV
This is
show.
true, we are.
Whereas by the movie logic, they aren't that close.
And I agree, but like I
They're
think
probably close, but they're not like I had to like sleep in the same bed as you, eat the same food as you, do the same things as
they
you
do the
for
same,
forever.
They do the same bed thing.
They do that.
They do. It's like it's an important scene for both of them.
Yeah, because that's where he talks about how he's piloting the Ava so he can get his father's approval kind of thing.
And then that's her realizing, like, growing from, like, I'm, like, realizing I'm not better off alone. I really should be with other people.
I would also really appreciate if they explained the penguin.
Don't worry about it.
Don't
Don't worry about it.
They never will.
Pen Pen's just there.
Pen
Don't
Pen's
worry
there.
about it.
Oh, poor Pen.
They don't hint anything in the show
Nope.
at all.
No.
He's there.
He's there to be cute.
I mean,
She's there
her
'cause the
dad
writers wanted
did
to make
die in
something creepy.
Well, of
Antarctica.
all places,
You're right.
the manga
Like,
talks about
Antarctica
that.
melted, so
Yeah.
he probably they saved the penguin from
But
Antarctica.
he's a freshwater penguin.
Apparently.
Yeah, totally. Duh.
All right, so then Shinji runs away again, and that I forget the name of it, but that really powerful angel shows up, starts wrecking face.
Oh, there is like it's like Zerul or Zerel.
Yeah, it starts with a Z.
Yeah,
And Mari shows up in 2.0 and does the beast mode thing,
which was awesome.
which
It
was
cool.
awesome. Forgot to mention it. There is a new element in this show, or in 2.0, the Vatican Treaty, which keeps
Yeah.
you from only having 3 Avas per country,
That was cool.
which is interesting.
I know.
Kind of talking about the more global
Well, it
side
makes
of
sense to do that because it's not like they're all attacking Japan. They're probably going to show up all over the place.
it. But no, they're attacking Nerve because they have Lilith down there.
And that's the end goal of the angels.
But there's like this mistrust going on between like the UN and Nerve, so they don't want
Because
Nerve to
it's
have too much
just-
power.
Well, and it seems to be pretty heavily implied that Gendo or Nerve may have had something to do with Unit 4 exploding. I mean, I definitely think there was some sort of sabotage there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Probably.
he pretty much said that, like, after he found out it blew up, he went and talked to Sele, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
And he said the plan for Unit 4 was worked out, and I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely part of Gendo's plan. I do think Beast Mode, pretty sweet. Awesome
Beast Mode
fight
was
scene.
great.
I do kind of wonder, though, when we already had, Ava Unit 1, and the Avas in the TV show going berserk, where they would go all animal-like, and go crazy. So what exactly is beast mode then versus that? Like, is that beast mode then? How does this work?
Oh.
I think maybe it's just like when you're going into beast mode, you are actively triggering the berserk, as opposed to whenever Shinji ends up doing it and he goes full on berserk. That is the system's shutting down and failing. Like, the things that are containing the angel within are failing because of reasons, as opposed to we are consciously turning off some of the restrictions to enable the more bestial angel nature of the Ava to come out.
I suppose so. And then, that fails. Angel eats Rei. Shinji sees it, and he decides, no, I'm going to pilot Unit 1.
Also, Mari does a thing there where she inspires him. So
I know, but she didn't really inspire him. She lifted him out of there and showed him
yes.
Rei getting bitten. We could have replaced that scene with the shelter wall crumbling down and him seeing Rei get
no, because Mari
eaten.
does say some things like, you need to stop moping
She
around,
says
boy.
some things, but the reason he went and did it was because he wanted to save Rei.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think it. If she hadn't shown him that, it's not like he would have suddenly been like, "You've inspired me, Mari. I'm gonna go pilot."
Mm-hmm.
So once again, Mari serves no real story purpose in the rebuilds.
She is interchangeable, but I still appreciate what the dialogue she adds. I still appreciate her character, even if she doesn't really move the story in any way.
She doesn't. And, I guess she's there because they need somebody to, fight that angel while Asuka was too busy being, in a coma.
Mega dead?
And...
Yes. She serves a purpose as, another Ava pilot to do, battles. But, I'm saying as far as, impact on the story, impact on her character, why she was introduced, to this retelling of Evangelion, what's going to be her importance to the series, If it's just battles, that's fine, but that means she's just a really pretty shallow character.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so, Shinji gets into Ava Unit 1, starts fighting the Angel, and... when I watched the movie for the first time, because I actually watched these rebuild films years ago, and I really liked 2.0 because it was Shinji finally grew a pair and fought for something that he believed in, that he wanted.
And even Masada was like, no, you go. You found something you wanted to believe in. Go fight for that.
And everyone was really on board with it until they found out the consequences of the actions.
See,
Yes, Third Impact.
See, you guys were trying to tell me, no, you were really on board with him causing the third impact. No, they weren't. They were on board with him fighting for something he believed in.
That's the impression I got.
And then the third impact started, wait a minute, this isn't what we wanted. Stop this, stop.
Yeah. And Chase, maybe you could explain it to me a bit. I know,
what's up?
When he gets Rei, she turns into the weird bloody version of herself, and then that fuses with the Ava, and it goes all God mode.
God mode, right.
And the third impact starts happening. But what is the mechanics of that? Why does what Shinji does to save? Why does that start third impact? What did Shinji do that starts third impact? I guess.
I'm guessing it has something to do with Rei being inside the angel, and I'm guessing it has something to do you guys know in the original series Rei was something important to the plot line, but I'm drawing a blank right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, she was a clone, and then getting to use her an end of Ava to start.
It turns out she's part of Lilith, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if 2.0 described it, but it probably has something to do with that when she combined with that angel.
I always thought it was because they always talk about Unit 1 awakening, and I think that they needed Shinji's
to be in a heightened emotional state.
A belief state, he has to really believe in something. I don't know, however Unit 1 acted.
But the
awakens.
Unit 1 is going crazy. As he's reaching for Rei, but it's not until Rei's weird body fuses with Unit 1 that it goes really crazy.
Well, that's probably like he said, it probably has something to do with that triggering.
Or just he's no longer focusing entirely on getting Rei, so
just pointing out that the mechanics of all these impacts are just not well explained at all.
Not at all. But I don't really feel like they need to be hyper explained.
I don't necessarily want exposition dumps, but I like a little bit of your world mechanics to actually make sense, because I appreciate that.
That part made sense to me, and Ava kind of way.
Ava way in that it doesn't make much sense.
And that, it makes as much sense as anything else that's going on. And, like, I kind of understood that, like, okay, so that's triggering. So we awakened Unit 1 either by Shinji believing in it or Rei fusing with it or...
Whatever.
Because, I mean, in 3.0, it's revealed that Rei, like... Shinji's mom is like fused into Unit 1, so
right, well,
maybe
which is like the TV show.
Which is like the TV show, so maybe that's something to do with it. Maybe like the
yeah.
two
Well,
of them, like,
I mean,
fusing
yeah.
back
Unit
together.
1 has always been the special one.
Yeah, it has always been the special
from the
one.
beginning.
Well, they always wanted Unit 1 to awaken, even in the show, because they needed that for Third Impact to happen. So, however you awaken that thing,
whatever that works.
is
all right.
This.
So that happens. They end on it's the end of the world, the Third Impact.
Awesome.
But then the post-credit scene, Kaoru throws the lance of Cassius down, spears through the Ava 1, and what's his line? The promised time has come, Shinji Ikari. This time, I'll be sure to bring you happiness.
See, also, like, referencing that there's more than one. And
Right, the whole this time.
Yuck.
also
kind of thing.
He's
yes.
in Unit 6. So.
Quite the cliffhanger. I know you were pretty mad at me that we didn't watch 3.0 sooner because
I finished watching 2.0 at like 5 in the morning. I just sat back and I'm like, why am I not watching 3.0 like right now?
So you had to wait.
How would you have felt if you did?
I don't know. I would have been like 7 in the morning when I finished. So
You probably would have been like, bedtime.
no, it's not worth it.
Yeah. But
maybe no. I would
personally-
because like whatever.
Personally, for me, 2.0 is my favorite of the 3 rebuild films, like easily. Because
Oh, no.
1.0 is good, but it's pretty much just the TV show. 2.0 actually changed a lot of things, made things go in a direction I was really on board with. And 3.0 has some issues, which we're going to get to.
Oh yeah, let's talk about 3.0 and then we'll talk about.
All right. So 3.0, 14 years later. Hey! And absolutely nothing from the preview in 2.0 is in 3.0.
There are
Asuka has an eye patch.
There are some speculation that like a lot of things that happened in the preview like happened in the 14 years.
I've heard that, and
because
maybe
Unit 6 had to descend it, and the UN probably bombed Nerve. But
maybe all that's true, but 3.0 doesn't hint about any of it.
Well, no, like because Unit 6 is at the bottom of the
It
chamber
is.
with Lilith, so that had to have happened in some capacity.
So what did they say in the trailer? Unit 6 descends?
yes, Unit 6 descends to Central Dogma, which
I
is
see.
where it is in 3.0. So
Right, but that still doesn't explain why it's fused to giant Lilith.
Who knows?
I think
Ano
maybe,
knows, right?
maybe
right?
it's the energy that
Nope.
was created from
Probably
killing her
not.
that fused them together or something.
There's a lot of speculation to like what happened. Some people even think that like another like actual Third Impact happens, and
Oh,
that's
right.
what that was. That all that was like the like Unit 6 triggering Third Impact down there doing something because it was an angel and it interacted with Lilith. We were always told that if an angel and Lilith interact, that's what's gonna cause Third Impact.
Right, but then they don't talk about because that what we saw in 2.0 was nearly third impact. They kind of referred to it as that.
Yes.
So then Karu would then cause fourth impact, and what Shinji causes would be fifth impact, but they don't refer to it that way.
Well, no, like they call that near Third Impact, and then I think there's like an actual Third Impact that like happens, but.
They need to stop making impacts.
There's too many at this point.
And then and then some spears were thrown at the thing that stopped it. And
I did want to mention real quick because this was my little gripe about the 3D in 2.0. It's more of an issue in 3.0, but in 2.0, you remember that scene, cool scene where they're running to stop the angel from falling.
I love that part.
That part is awesome, but I just don't understand their consistency with like the 3D because like they're showing the mechs, the Avas, running in 3D, jogging along, and like it doesn't look bad by like anime 3D standards, but anime 3D has never looked as good as American 3D in my mind. So I love Japan's one of the few places I can come to get really good 2D animation, so I'm kind of a purist when it comes to that sort of thing. But then there's a shot, like you see a shot of Unit 1 running like horizontally, and then there's that shot where he like jumps off the cliff, which is kind of like a famous, I think it's a Yo Yoshinari cut, from the original show, and that part is 2D, and then it goes back to being 3D like in the next shot. It's like if you're gonna do it, be consistent with it. I don't understand. Like they use 3D on Asuka's Ava when it was being towed like after her first big battle. Like that made sense. Because it's moving in the background. It'd be hard to animate that in 2D. I get that. But then why why make it 3D in certain places and 2D in others?
I don't know, man. I don't animate things.
I know, so I'm just throwing it out there. That's my gripe about the 3D.
I don't animate things. I can't answer
3.0
your anime questions.
starts with a pretty cool fight scene where Asuka is
Goes into space to fetch space Shinji.
indeed. Although once again, like I actually when I was looking at the Ava wiki for this to prepare this sheet. That's when I learned that, like, that was Shinji that they got there. Like,
Yes.
It took
kind
our
of,
second viewing to figure that out.
we realized that on our second viewing. 'Cause we
I
watched
thought
it
it
on
was
Wednesday.
she was just fighting like an angel there.
No, okay. So we watched it again on Wednesday, and we like really watching it. This didn't like pay attention
Pausing to
plot.
understand.
Well, we only did that like during one scene, but this time we did get that like just watching it because then you see because the Unit 1 activates briefly and it does the eye laser thing that it did at
And
the
it-
end of 2 and it
activates
shoots that.
when she yells, "Do something, Shinji."
Yeah, but my point is, like, myself having only watched the movie once, that beginning was so confusing. I had no
Yes.
idea what was going on.
Well, I mean, like
Yes.
it
like,
is one
like
of those
both story wise confusing in that you don't know where you're setting, but also visually, like I think it was moving around so much.
There was a lot of moving
I didn't really
around.
know
It
what
was
was going
weird.
on.
And at some point, the box that he's in turns into the thing that she's fighting, which might be an angel. Like when
No,
you're first
they're not
watching, well,
angels.
when you're first watching it, you're like, okay, is this an angel? Is this something else? What is going on here?
Well, you just like let that slide because like okay, so you're gonna start with an action sequence because that's like a very traditional thing in movies is you want to start with an action scene because it grabs your attention and then
Yes.
you explain what that action scene was doing like later like
Except
Star
they don't.
Wars opens with an action scene with like literally very little context except for the opening text scroll.
True.
And what C-3PO says.
But I could actually tell what was going on.
well, yeah,
like,
but
visually.
like,
at
that's
least.
because it was like a traditional movie. But I'm just saying, like, I was okay with it starting like
Yeah, no,
action-
like I said, like I actually the whole idea of it, like where I don't know if that black box is Shinji or whatever, but where it's like moving along like the different arms of that long
Yeah, that was
silver
cool.
thing. Like that was a cool concept. I like that.
That was
You
cool.
know, Mari's helping her out with that. You know, and then we come to on board the ship where Shinji kind of wakes up, realizes. Well, it takes him a little while to realize it's 14 years
Does take a
later
little bit, yeah.
because everybody's treating him like crap. He's got the collar on, and Masato won't even talk to him.
It is worth noting that it was like 5 minutes that he was allowed to be awake before someone says, "Hey, want to come with me? I'm your girlfriend."
Wait, does she say that?
No, but she says, "Shinji-kun, come with me."
Right.
Like it's like, well, these guys are threatening to blow up my neck if I do anything, and I like you.
Well, no, let's talk about like the conversation because okay, so they have Wunder, which is like their giant spaceship
The
thing.
ship,
Okay,
yes.
so rewatching it again. Okay, so the whole sequence makes a lot more sense the second time you watch it. Like we got this now.
I can imagine.
So all right, so they needed Unit 1 to be the battery for that thing, which is why they were in space to get the thing.
I got that. Yes.
So that's how it works. So now they can make the ship fly.
right.
And
Yes.
now they could shoot. Now they can fight back against the Nemesis series which previously they used to always retreat from, which is something that the Rizko says.
Yes, I got that.
So now they can fight the things,
I got that.
whatever those things are. We don't know those things.
We don't know what they are.
Those things we don't know, unless you have anything to say about the
the
Nemesis. things.
Nemesis series.
It's a Yamato reference. All of it is a reference to Yamato. Ano loves Yamato like we love Evangelion.
What's Yamato?
Space battleship.
Oh, Yamato.
Yeah.
Oh, can I watch that? That sounds fun.
In fact, some of the music from
You,
the
you would
the-
actually really like it.
the,
I would.
some of the music from the movie too is also from Nadia, The Secret of the Blue Water.
That I did hear about,
Ah.
which is like a vague.
Well, that's
thing.
also something Ano
He
directed.
did, and also part of the reason.
Shiro also did the music for that too,
Yeah. Oh wow. So he's really worked with Ano on like everything then.
except for Gunbuster. That's pretty much it.
Oh yeah, the Gunbuster soundtrack is amazing though. I love that guy. Anyways, so yeah, but once again, to me, like watching the movie for the first time, like I read up on some of that stuff about they talked about the Ava Unit 1 being the engine,
Yeah.
in the movie itself, and I got that part.
Yes.
But there was a lot of confusing stuff going on. There was a really, really bad shot of like it panning through all the moving
yeah. The 3D
platforms.
wasn't so great. So
the
there,
3D
so.
was bad.
Yeah, the
during
3D
that
wasn't
whole
so
bad
great there.
and it was just I don't know. It's just the opening of the movie is very confusing. Like you don't know what the hell is going on.
Well, it's just because it's moving so fast.
It is.
and-
But once again, I come back to like that visually confusing thing because like they're introducing the Nemesis series, but we don't know what they are,
We don't.
and they're like popping out of the ocean, and we don't really know what's going
Yeah,
on.
that part, I will give you that part's confusing. Although it is worth noting that on rewatch, I am a lot less mad at Masato and Asuka for not explaining the crap to Shinji because they had like zero time to actually
Yeah.
explain it to him
'Cause
because they were in the process of
They
doing
were
that.
starting to talk to him, and then red girl whose name I am
Asuka.
Asuka blanking. Asuka comes in and she yells at him for a little bit, which is completely justified.
She's just mad, so she punches him.
And then she leaves, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna get back to talking to you." And then Rey shows up. So
Right.
it's like they didn't have time to really give him as much context as they would have liked. There was that one entire scene where Shinji's like, "Hey, would someone talk to me?" And then everyone ignores him, and then he says,
Well, it's
"Hey, can
because
someone
they were-
talk to me?"
they were
but
busy.
they were busy at the time. Shinji, you're a 5-year-old.
But they
wait your turn
but Masato asked for him to come to the bridge. It's not like he went there on his own.
to test to see if the bomb collar works.
Okay, that's
that was
true.
that was probably what they really wanted out of
He was
that.
like, "Oh, bomb works. Okay, I'm going back to my job."
So yeah, while we were watching the scene, they really didn't have enough time to properly explain him. They were telling him things over, like they were explaining.
I know. But I guess if that's the way they were going to do with it, then they should have just said, okay, take Shinji out of here. We got to do this battle plan. You, Toji's sister, you can explain some things
Yeah,
to
give him some exposition.
Well, I
Yeah.
think they wanted to do it themselves because I think they wanted to control what information he got out of this.
I guess. There's also this weird thing with Asuka, how the curse of the Eva keeps her young, which seems to me more like
Curse of the Ava.
an
Yuck.
excuse to keep your characters the same and not make a 30-year-old Asuka.
Merchandise.
Yeah, basically.
I would have been super pro 28-year-old Asuka.
No, I would have been pro it too. I think that would have been really interesting, but they dodged that bullet by saying, Evas make you immortal.
See, I think it's because I don't think they wanted to age all of them because they would have had to age all of them. They had to redesign all their characters, and I think.
Well, they already had to redesign all the adult characters.
Yeah, but
Those guys at eye patch.
they
don't
play
forget.
less
She does.
And
less of a role. But I think so they had to clone Rey, so Rey's gonna be roughly the same age.
Right.
Unless she's not.
And we want to keep this love triangle thing between Shinji, Asuka, and Rey going thing. And it would be weird if they were all different ages because suddenly 2 of them are 28 and the other one's 14 looking, and that gets into weird territories.
True, but Shinji's not in love with Rey 3 that's in
He's
the
not.
movie. He's in love with Rey 2, who's apparently still somewhere in the
Yes.
Ava,
Which
alongside the mom.
is true. But it's also possible that we might, that might be a thing in 4.0 that they might like. Because Rey or Rey 3 or Rey Q, as some people have called her on the internet. Because it's Evangelion Q, so she's Rey Q. And I'm like, whatever. So call her whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, they start explaining some things to Shinji. Rey pops in, or what he thinks is Rey anyways, and says, come with me if you want to live.
Exactly. They do the Terminator thing.
They do. And Masato can't push the button.
Because she still cares for him.
Because she does still care for him.
Which
you
is
know, and
nice.
I appreciated that. And then
Ritsuko's like, kill him.
yeah, Ritsuko doesn't care, but Ritsuko never cared.
She never did.
Yeah, and then we arrive at Nerve. Gendo has some stupid visor thing over his eyes now.
Yeah, I don't know why he went Cyclops.
It kind of reminds me of the visor from one of the Sele dudes.
Yeah, no, you're right. It looks like the main Sele dude,
It does look like him.
except he apparently doesn't exist in the rebuilds.
Yeah, there's some thing. They might be the slap. They might just be the slaps in this. Who
Yeah.
knows?
It was a little weird too. When they were still on the ship, they mentioned how Shinji couldn't sync with Unit 1 because they had like a 0%
Yeah.
sync ratio, but he syncs with Unit 13
See,
just fine.
there is a theory on the internet about this one that I
Oh.
actually kind of like. Is that so? Rey is now in Unit 1, and Rey 2 is now in Unit 1, and Rey 2 knew how much Shinji hated piloting the Eva, so now she is not letting them sync so that he doesn't have to get back in the thing.
Right.
Because she wants him to be happy
Although-
because this is a Rey that actually likes him.
Yeah, but then once again, Unit 1 did activate during the rescue
But
mission.
that's only because Asuka needed it too. And
So Rey turned it on.
So Rey turned it on.
I see. So you think Rey's the one, or Yui? I guess it could be either or.
Yue or Rey, but probably Rey because Rey and Asuka have some sort of maybe relationship
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean, Rey's Yui's clone. I mean, we know
Yeah.
that.
Well, no, I meant Rey and Asuka have some sort. Rey 2 and Asuka
Oh.
have some sort of ish
They're,
thing.
they're kind of friends at the end because Rey calls and says thank you.
Yeah. But before that, they had been like big jerks to each other.
Well-
Well, no, not Rey hadn't been a big jerk, but Asuka hated Rey.
But you know how Asuka is. So
Well, she hates everybody, I guess. But yeah, he gets the nerve. There's literally nobody there except for Gendo, Futsuki, and Rey. And he's really
Karo.
low. And Karo, right. We're going to get to
Karo.
that.
for new OTP.
But this, and I was talking about this during the movie, if if Wunder or Vil, whatever, and Nerve are enemies, then why doesn't Misato come and just attack Nerve and get it over with?
All right, so our explanation from rewatch is okay. So they couldn't do it until now.
I get that.
Because they needed.
They don't have their ship
to get Wunder to work.
Although once again, they could, even if they don't have the ship, they could probably have sent Mari and Asuka to attack. And
they could have. That was a trap. So.
Well, yeah, but
that was a tarp.
But that's 2 Evas versus 1. They only would have had. Well, I guess they had Rei and Karu, but they don't have one for Karu to pilot.
Or Juzei.
Well, they didn't show one, so no, they don't.
They might.
Okay,
we could go with how many Evas they have shoved up in there. There's apparently the ones who failed to achieve infinity crawling all up in that place.
Well, but what the hell are those? What those? Can those be piloted?
Maybe. I don't know.
It's all maybes. That's the thing. I'm going with what we know for certain.
Well, yeah.
So I'm just saying,
One argument for why they don't just bomb them right then is they don't know that's where they are. They're using so little power. They're just using the minimal power to build an Eva,
and
then otherwise they're just living in like a crater. They're eating paste, and every now and then a shirt pops out of a hole.
Yeah, I don't know, but clearly, it takes a lot of power to build an Eva to start with. So
maybe not enough to be noticed.
I don't buy that argument personally. Secondly,
also
it's implied. It's implied that Nerve and they said, they were like enemies. Where our goal is to stop Nerve. Presumably, they've been having it doing things to each other for the past 14 years, not just sitting on their asses.
It's entirely. I mean, it's part of the possible that Nerve made these nemesis thingies to fight them.
It's possible, But once again, it's possible, but we don't know. We have no idea what the nemesis thingies are.
Yeah, idea.
So, but I'll accept the argument that they didn't attack before because they don't have the ship. But now they have the ship, and there's a pretty long gap between where Shinji comes in and when they finally finish Unit 13. So why didn't they attack somewhere in that gap?
They were probably recovering from that first fight when they had to use the ship, and they did that crazy dance where the ship just jumped up and whirled around and threw.
Ritsuko was talking about how you can't get the ship flying like this, but they got the ship flying like this.
I think they also. Well, that's because they had to manual override that crap.
I know.
I think they wanted to actually install the ignition system, make sure everything worked before they attempt an assault on Nerve. So
I get that, but you understand my point,
I do,
right?
No, I do, and I agree that it is a problem with the movie. I'm not.
You got our best argument.
That's all we've got for this.
It is,
and it's
admittedly a plot hole.
It is a problem.
Misato is the type to say, screw the fact that our ship isn't ready.
Screw the rules. I have money.
We're doing this now. We're taking advantage of the situation, kind of thing.
I agree, and I do agree that that's a problem. Although it is a plot hole. It's not an unforgivable sin for this movie.
No, it's not the big problem with this movie, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But
I can forgive that.
Because here's the thing, my sort of impression going away from 3.0 was that it has too many problems for me to call it a good movie, but too many good scenes for me to call it a bad movie.
See? That's my problem. That's my thing with
and the thing that this movie does really well is Shinji and Kaoru.
Oh god, that ship is sailing.
It's very much so. Although piano scenes, beautiful, some of my favorite animation in the movie, I don't know how Shinji picks up the piano I don't know, what do you want to call it, an auteur, in the process of about 2 seconds.
Maybe he was secretly a great piano player and that Gendo just never encouraged him.
In the show, didn't he play cello?
Yeah, he played the cello.
That's right. Cello. He was a little bit musical.
So, okay, he has musical tendencies, but if he hasn't played the piano before... I forgot about the cello thing, though. That makes it a little bit better.
I forgot about the cello thing.
I literally just remembered.
That was a thing, yeah.
I still love the concept, he was always just, destined to play the piano, and had his father showed him any level of love or compassion, he could have become a great composer. But instead, he just wants him to be a robotic suicide bomber.
Instead, just get in the robot, Shinji.
But yes, compared to the TV show where Kaoru shows up for half an episode and then gets killed off by the end, this develops it way more, and I find that relationship to be a lot more believable than it was in the TV show.
I actually really like that relationship in this movie.
Yes.
I think it's well done.
Nope,
it's interesting.
I agree with all that. That's
also,
my favorite
Kaoru
part of the
explains
movie.
the plot to him.
At least part of it. Futsuki explains a lot to him too. But
they explain the plot to him. Isn't that crazy?
I know, right? Telling him things. and he gets attached to Kaoru because Rei is like completely unemotional, and he starts to realize this isn't the Rei I
But
saved.
Kaoru's really nice to me, and he's like really sweet, and he fixed my thing.
He
plays
also
the
does
piano
sexy
with me,
poses.
and he does sexy
He
poses
is-
and looks at the stars with me, and isn't he dreamy?
Yeah, he's very very forward as well, Mr. Kaoru. But yeah,
He just wants to make Shinji happy. He just wants to make Shinji happy.
but yes, he
Maybe.
does. Well, and then he shows him the third impact world.
Yep.
I did read a thing online that apparently that part of Nerve is like up in the sky or something, which is why you see the clouds, which would explain why Shinji has the environmental suit on.
Okay.
Because if
That
they're
makes sense.
high
Okay,
up
cool.
there.
Okay, that explains it. Okay, so we.
Well, that might also explain why they didn't show up as soon, because they went there and Nerve was gone, but it turned out it was just like
In
like
the sky.
5,000 feet above.
But then they descend down into the basement.
Well, that's
of
because they were
original
going to
Nerve.
Central Dogma.
Well, right, but that implies I don't even know how that works. So the pyramid is like up in the sky, but then they go way, way, way down back to underground where Lilith is.
Well, that's where Lilith, and that's where they're constructing the 13th Ava.
So is there
Cool
just a
stuff is
giant like
appeared.
tower then going into the sky? I don't know how the
Yes.
architecture of this works.
It
Is
doesn't
this
make any
Tales of
sense.
Symphonia?
Yes, it is Tales of Symphonia. No, it's not actually.
Okay, so-
that's a hopeful thing.
The scene where they are walking down the staircase and Kaoru is still dreamy. We watched
How
that
dreamy he
over
is.
like a 15-minute period, stopping every 5 seconds
Well,
and
that's 'cause
then
we wanted to
trying
make
to
sure we
figure out
were-
what was going
Well,
on.
we were trying to read every line of dialogue, and there was a thing in our sub this time that like put context on what Lilin is.
Oh, so Lilith is humanity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I
It's-
figured.
It said it is it is something like a word like humanity, and we were spending like a good chunk of time arguing with each other over whether Lilin is the word to describe angels or Lilin is describing humanity, and we settled on humanity because Lilith is the mother of all of
Yeah,
humanity.
that's how they-
So we came from Lilith, so we are the Lilin.
Yeah, that's how they described it in the TV show, so I think that makes sense.
Yes. So Lilin. So if you just replace the word Lilin every time with the word humanity,
Makes a lot
it's
more sense.
The whole everything. that they
But
say.
basically, Kaoru tells him, yeah, everybody's been pissed at you, and turns out they were kind of right because you caused third
you
impact.
kind of caused the apocalypse. Did I? What? I just wanted to save Ray. Like that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah. And I have heard, part of people's arguments with why 3.0 is structured the way it is because you're supposed to relate to Shinji, and you're supposed to be confused as Shinji is, at like the beginning of the movie, and all those things. And I do think,
I can believe that.
It seemed like everyone, me myself included, and everyone watching was more just confused and not confused with him.
I was confused with him because he was confused. I was confused.
yeah,
So
we were confused, and
together we
but
were confused.
He was confused as like, oh, what did I do? And everyone else just like, what happened?
Yeah. So I think it works from that perspective because you do really feel for Shinji, and at least in the earlier, the first half, 2/3 of the movie, I guess would be a good way to put it. Because you really do emphasize with him, when he learns, oh, you caused third impact, you killed all these people,
Yeah,
blah,
I
blah, blah.
didn't
He
mean
gets
to do that.
Toji's shirt at one point.
I was being more.
Toji's probably dead. We
Knife
also
and wound.
pointed out that Kaji is probably dead, and that might be part of why Misato is so angry at him.
Might be, but Kaji could totally turn up in the fourth movie.
He
and
could totally turn up
like
the third movie.
just my
There's only
personal theory.
one reference to him in this movie, and that's one of the people on the deck says, "Wow, she's even crazier than he said he was."
Yeah, she's an even crazier captain than Kaji said.
Okay, so
So,
maybe, in
he
that
might
case,
still
maybe
be alive.
Kaji is alive and sent that guy there.
it's.
Yeah, but then,
Big twist, he's the one working for Nerve.
I don't know. I mean, they played with
yeah.
that idea.
And then,
in the show, so.
Futsuki also, gets it in his head like, I'm actually going to explain things to Shinji. Like, what
It
a
was
what a
really
revolutionary concept.
It was really cool.
I decided to explain the plot to him.
And he gets to see all these horrible images of like all the Rei clones and
And
learn
your
about
mom.
and his mom and learns all that. And then he's like really depressed and goes walking down that hallway,
he has a mental breakdown.
and
camera's
like
all
yeah,
shaky.
it's really shaky, and there's like multiple images layered over each other. And I seriously thought, like, Shinji, are you just gonna walk over one of those railings and kill yourself? Because that wouldn't be unreasonable right now.
Although it is worth noting that some people think that or I don't know, because we only have the sub, and I watched the show dub, is that like a lot of the lines of dialogue were pulled from the show and that from the previous movies. Like a lot of the things he's hearing in his head.
Oh. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of it's a lot of insults, I think, being thrown at him.
But like they pulled that from the show, which were things that didn't happen in the movie. So there's like some interesting like meta.
Right,
Is this like
if this is a sequel
is
to the
this
show.
is this like a redo?
But then,
Speaking of readers,
It's a rebuild.
it is the rebuild.
well, what's the title of this one?
Well, you cannot redo. But Karu finds him in his room, all cuddled up in a corner.
Which is not unreasonable.
Not unreasonable. Like I said, you really do empathize with Shinji in this first 2/3.
It's like, no, Shinji.
And Karu then decides to put the collar on himself, which
is weird.
The best way I can explain it is that he's bearing the sin of the Lilin.
No,
That's
he's
what he
supposed to-
said.
He does say, "I'm bearing the sins of like."
Which
Jesus
is
metaphor.
noble and all, but if you can remove the stupid collar,
Yeah,
just
just
throw
like
it
toss
away.
it. Yeah.
Like,
But maybe I think what might have happened is that he didn't know everything that was going to happen, but he's just like, this could go horribly wrong when we go down there, so I'm going to do this.
Because the collar, once it gets in range, it does detect like life form. So if there was no collar, then they were like, "Well, crap, we don't have any problem with this." Plus, he says something about like the Lilin demand a sacrifice for this.
yeah, like I get all that, but once again, he could have just as easily set the collar down on the floor and been done with it.
I mean, it's true, but it depends on like what he wants out of this. We're really not 100% sure on his motivations and things.
He likes Shinji being happy.
yes,
He doesn't like that.
and
so
now
yeah.
he's dead, so we'll never
And then
know.
he tells Shinji like, "No, we could take the lances for ourselves, and we could fix this."
Yes,
Together, and we can
And then
screw your
Shinji
father.
just goes, I'm gonna everything up.
Yes,
That one.
but that was a good scene. Karu comforts him in this moment of grief. Tells him we can fix the world.
They hold hands. It's cute.
It is
really cute.
They go down, the shaft in Unit 13, and we get to the big kind of fight scene where Asuka and Mari show up and are telling them, like, don't do that.
Please
It's
don't
bad.
do that.
And
well,
Karu,
Asuka's just like, "Don't do that." Mari's like, "I like shooting things."
she is. But Karu is also immediately like, those are two lances of Longinus, not the lance of Longinus and the lance of Cassius.
We rewatched this again. So it is worth noting that he does not change his mind until Shinji is literally standing next to the lances.
But he tells him, like, no, Shinji, don't do this. Something's not right. He tells him that several times.
No, he literally says that. Like, he gets on the back of Lilith, and he's like, "Shinji, there's something wrong here," and Shinji's like, "What?" There's something off about this, and like, "What are you talking about?" These are
This
the
is
things
my
that
only
we're
hope
gonna
at
fix.
saving myself.
But I can see the argument that he doesn't say, like, stop Shinji until he's on top of Lilith. But
No.
throughout that whole
No, he doesn't.
As soon as they arrive, he puts his hand under his shoulder. He's like, something's not right.
No,
he's
he just
looking at
literally
it.
the whole scene. He's just sitting there thinking, and Shinji's like, "What's wrong?" I don't know.
You're not helping me. Why are you not helping me?
He's like, "Why aren't you helping me?" And he's like, "Shh, I'm thinking." And Shinji's like, "Anytime you care to explain this to me would be nice." And Karu's like,
he
"Shh,
doesn't.
shh, shh."
It's true that he doesn't actually say stop, but he does say maybe we shouldn't do this.
No, he does not say anything about not pulling out the spears until Shinji is literally standing next to the spears.
Even
And at
still,
that
he
point,
went and pulled
Shinji
the
is-
spears out anyway.
But he is like already committed to this by that
At this point, Shinji is desperate. He's got like 5 seconds before the other two are going to start kicking his ass to stop him from doing it, and he wants to do anything to try and fix his mistakes.
I just want to fix it.
He's really desperate. And I agree with you guys. I think this is stupid, and I feel like they could have easily had them literally pulling out the spears, and then Karu thinks something's wrong or says that as they're pulling it out. But I feel like it could have been scripted differently to make this not a problem. I still think it's a problem.
And you could say that about anything
Yes.
too. So it's good for it's very good. But it also could have been written differently.
I understand where Shinji's character is now. Like in that moment,
Yeah,
he's just so desperate.
I understand that he's desperate to fix the world, but at the same time, literally in the previous scene, he was like, every word that Karu said, he was like, taking in
that's
because he's like so dependent on
But that's
Karu.
because everything that Karu said was exactly what Shinji needed to hear. That was Karu inspiring hope in Shinji, and now Karu's trying to take that hope away from him. He doesn't want that. He just grasping at that hope. Like, no, this is gonna work. You told me this is gonna work. I need this to work. I really, really need this to work because there's no other good.
I understand that, but at the same time, you're really stupid if you completely, like, your friend is saying something's not wrong. We shouldn't do this.
Yeah, if the person that told you to do it is now telling you don't do it, that's an automatic don't do it.
If he's been acting strangely throughout this entire fight, staring at the spears,
Well, he just is a strange dude. So
you get the point. You're trying.
Like,
I understand you're playing devil's advocate here, but my point is Shinji still is kind of out of character there for me, making this stupid mistake.
I don't think he's out of character. I just think that like it is definitely like a stupid moment for him. Like
Yes.
And then
he
afterwards
screws
he
up.
says, "Is this my fault?"
Yes.
Which it is. But
Let me
yes.
think.
Yes.
And then at some point,
Yes.
Karu says, "It's not your fault, Shinji," and I'm just like, "Yes, it is."
Yeah, no,
Not
it's
your fault.
yeah,
This is-
that's
this
because
is
that's
our bad.
my big problem with the movie. He completely ignores everybody's warnings, pulls out the spears anyways, and causes fourth impact.
I mean,
And it doesn't go through entirely, obviously, but point being, he makes another really bad thing happen,
Yes.
and it is entirely his fault this time,
this is true.
and which it wasn't before.
Yeah, but with
you know.
the third,
last time it was
third
accident.
impact, yeah, third impact, it was more like
It was
I'm
accidents.
doing it, and by the time I realized it was bad, I couldn't stop it.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah, that was accidents. This time he just screw up.
But talking about that scene just superficially, fight scene, very cool. I like
Yes.
those little things with AT fields
Yeah.
that are like going around the Unit 13.
I love the crazy sniper bullets that they got to use.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's like,
You know,
I got these.
Also,
these are cool.
I think pretty much all of that was 2D. Very nice.
It
I
was.
appreciate. But then, pulls out the spears, bad things start happening. Unit 6 becomes an angel, and Karu becomes an angel, which is weird because apparently he's the first angel, but now he's also the 13th angel, which doesn't make much sense to me, but whatever.
Does that mean he's also Adam?
Yeah, well, yeah, I thought Adam was kind of the first angel, but
yeah, I think that was like implied.
or at least in the TV show and the rebuilds, who knows? I mean, Adam
Yeah.
really hasn't been mentioned.
Yeah, he hasn't.
Actually,
I mean,
but
they bring up the vessel of Adam,
Vessel of Adam, which
which was
not
what
explained.
Ray was supposed to be.
Yeah,
Ray, they're like, you're gonna become the vessel of Adam.
Which-
and Ray's
'cause-
like, I don't know what that is.
yeah. Ritsuko has some line about how it like has control over the Wonder, and starts like fusing with it, But then Asuka comes and blows
Well,
it up.
I mean that kind of makes sense in some way because like the Wonder is controlled by Ava 1, and Ava 1 is UA and Ray 2, so another Ray thing fusing with it.
I guess.
And then Ray Q or 3 or whatever we're calling it, shows some character development there because Asuka's like,
What do you want?
What do you want? And she's like,
not die.
not dying, and pushes the eject button. And I'm like, okay, cool. So she made a choice.
She actually made a choice, not against orders. Amazing. But yeah.
Something.
That was character development.
I mean, no, I'm not saying
step
it was. It's a tiny step, but it's something.
It had to be something because and I'm sure that will continue in 3.0 plus 1.0 or 4.0 or 5.
Yeah.
8.
And
I will say,
Gonna call it 8.
I didn't. Asuka's beast mode was still a cool fight. I do think the tail was maybe a bit much.
yeah,
Probably.
I thought the tail was the battery cord.
But they don't have the battery
They don't
cords
have the
anymore.
No, they don't.
Yeah, that was the whole point of in the fight in the skull room. Asuka runs out of power.
Yeah.
Conveniently, I might add.
Eh.
She didn't think to charge the batteries before going
No,
to
she
this
did.
big
It was
fight.
it just took longer.
Long trek down.
They have always run out of power at like inconvenient times.
It's a long trek down to the Mayan
But-
skull pits.
But they've in the past, it's always been that there was a time limit and then it shut down permanently. It seems like at this point, 14 years later, they don't have that liability anymore.
They have batteries because Mari throws her another one.
Right, she does.
Like, okay, give me the spare because Mari's the support sniper while Asuka's like the melee fighter. So she has she has the extra batteries.
Right.
That makes sense, like from like a strategic standpoint.
It does. And then, shit's going crazy. Fourth impact.
Blah blah blah.
Karu decides,
Apocalypse.
Gonna stab myself with the 2 spears, and the collar like trigger does this weird thing where the crystals pop out of it once they go do the fourth impact thing. Is that just because Misato was close enough to it?
We don't. There's some speculation as to whether that's Misato activating it or she activates it like there's a multi-step process to that, or if it just was set to auto trigger whenever the Ava awakens, and then this was that was auto triggering and it was gonna go off in a
Yeah,
second.
because it kind of seemed like Karu knew what was going on and almost triggered it himself because he knew he
Yes.
had to kill himself to stop this.
He did. And then he stabs himself with he stabs the Ava with the spears, and then Mari catches
Shinji
Shinji
gets
and
Shinji
yells
out of
at
there.
him and says something.
you need to figure out how the world works.
You need to figure out how you need to sort your life out, man. And she's like, and Shinji's like, I'm glad that we've interacted twice.
Yeah, you're such a deep character, Mari. And then Gendo and Futsuki talk a little bit. Futsuki says that almost everything went as Seele intended, but Gendo says that Sele's boy has been eliminated and Ava 13 awakened.
Yes, which is
And they also shut down the Sele pillars.
They
I
did
forgot
shut down the
that.
Sele pillars, which I guess is killing them because I guess they're
But they seemed okay with
Brain
it.
slabs.
Well, they didn't say anything. They've never said. They didn't
No,
say anything.
the main one did. He had a line about how
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
he
good. Human instrumentality will happen as we have
Oh
directed.
yeah, no, I mean, like some people think that that's them like getting ready for instrumentality.
Which, it's weird though because like they seem like they were ready for instrumentality, but then instrumentality doesn't happen. But then they're still okay with it. Like it's still all according to plan. Like we wanted this to fail.
Well, no, because like they shut down
Because we need this to be more
before
complex.
Fourth Impact fails.
Wait, sorry, what?
Well,
What's that?
Okay, so the Fourth Impact is going on. They
Right.
shut down Sele.
Right,
Then the Fourth Impact stops happening because Karu stabs himself.
right.
And then Gendo's plan, I guess, is to kill God instead of like whatever Sele's got going on.
Yeah, because Gendo had the head of Lilith was in his room
Hmm.
apparently, and he had that case with the
Yeah,
Nebuchadnezzar
with the
key in it.
Nebuchadnezzar. So,
But who knows about that? And then at the end, Asuka drags Shinji out of the pod. And those two, Mari and Rei, all kind of go walking.
no, Mari's not with them because Mari got recovered by the Wunder and is on.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, she got recovered.
So it's just the three of them then.
It's just the three of them walking off into the sunset, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, it says something about like they won't be rescued because of L barrier density, and they have to travel somewhere where Lilith can pick them up.
Yeah.
So humanity.
Right. So humanity, L barrier density. I don't know what the hell that means, but
Psychobabble. Technobabble.
you guys pushing the table on us or what?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's not like I have much space between
So-
me as well anyway.
Like I said, Ava 3.0, lots of good scenes in it. The stuff with Kaoru and Shinji, very good. Like I said, problems
scenes.
with it. You have cool fight scenes. Once again though, it went really kind of crazy with the 3D, and in certain cases, I think that's kind of bad. But whatever. But the big problems with it, really confusing at the beginning. A cool concept, but I think it could have been executed better.
Yeah.
And some plot
Yes.
holes, like why didn't Masato attack? Why does Shinji ignore Kaoru? And cause Fourth Impact.
I can, like,
And
there's
then
an
whine about how it's
explanation-
not his fault.
There's an explanation for the idiot ball moment for Shinji, but like
It's not a good one.
It's a fine explanation. It's just annoying.
And it just 3.0 just kind of disappointed me because, like I said, I really liked 2.0 and I like the direction it was going in. But now, like, there's no real way you can because you were sympathizing with Shinji throughout 3.0. Then he causes Fourth Impact.
then
It's
the-
like, well, Shinji, you done messed up.
You-
I can't
you
really.
did it.
He can
You're
have a
done
redemption
goof.
arc.
He can have a redemption arc, but he needs to be redeemed. I'm saying that right now he's at a low point, and I hate him because he's a goddamn idiot.
Well, but he might pull himself out. There is some people still hoping that 4.0 is going to end with a
Yes.
happy note, with him just achieving some level of happiness for himself
And
instead of
if he does, if there's some sort of redemption arc in 4.0, I can accept that, and that might be great. But I kind of doubt whether Ano wants to do that. Knowing Ano.
It's a lot easier to make more Ava things if you just still don't give them a happy ending.
Well, actually, okay. So then that brings us up to I guess is the preview for Ava
Right.
3.0 plus 1.0, which is not much. They just show the
Yeah.
combination of units 2 and 8.
Yeah, apparently
Fighting.
Masato talks about Shinji, who still lacks the will to survive, the will to live, finding a place that teaches him hope, the implementation of the Human Instrumentality Project, and a final stand by Will and the Wunder, with the customary promise of fan service up until the end.
Well, they're just
Because
yeah.
whatever.
Anyway, but then it says, and then there's a lot of speculation at this because then it says Evangelion, and there's
Colon.
it's either a colon or it's part of it, because it's either the musical denotation for end, it's colon end, or if that's part of it, then it's
Right.
the denotation for repeat.
Right. But then once again, in that came out in 2012. This year they announced the 3.0 plus 1.0 title,
Yes.
which is apparently the title of the movie, even though it apparently isn't being worked on right now.
Well, I mean, at the very least, they have that instead of they originally called, what do they call it? What do they call 3.0 and at the end of 2.0?
I don't know.
Do they call it Q? Because Q.
I
is,
think they might have
the-
called it
the
Q
thing
because
that
that's what
ended
it's
up
called
sticking with.
in Japan. Apparently, it's called Q because the quickening, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's confusing with the names, but I don't know. I guess getting to overall thoughts about the rebuilds, what are your thoughts? What is your favorite of them? And what are your thoughts on how they stand up? As movies? Because personally, I do think 1 and 2 I think are superior, to those equivalent episodes of the TV show. Like I think it improves on a lot of things I didn't like about Ava. I really liked 2.0. 3.0, like I said, too bad to be good, but too good to be bad. So it falls somewhere in the middle. I think it was disappointing to me, and I'm kind of worried about what the fourth movie is going to be like. So that's kind of where I stand on the rebuilds personally. Peter.
I really enjoyed 1, and I would definitely encourage people to watch this if they enjoyed Ava. 2 is probably my favorite of the 3. I loved it. I really loved it. I had one problem with it overall, and even that's explainable. And then 3, you need to watch it more than once. Either that, or you need to watch it slowly.
Okay.
Well, part of that's the subbing thing, because we watched that sub. Even Madoka, I had to watch the ending of that more than once to really sink in what's going on.
Well, yeah,
'cause that's a very metaphysical thing, and it's hard to read. And
to
you're
have the
trying to
ending
watch it, and
to have the ending be understood. But actually, 3.0 came out I guess that came out 2012. Madoka came out 2013. But Madoka Rebellion actually threw you in the middle of this confusing situation, but then actually explained it at some point, and made it work.
it did.
Whereas this movie
But there's
it
also
did explain some
there's
things.
also an entire another movie that we have not yet seen. So there is still a chance for some of this to get explained versus Madoka, which was billed as a thing that was going to end.
The
Yes,
fourth
that's
one might
true.
be a prologue to 3 for all we know.
That also is entirely.
And then number 5 is going to be picking up from that. I mean,
there's no fifth.
Anything's
As
possible.
of right now, there is no fifth.
As of right now, there isn't. But the fact they're calling it 3.0 plus 1.0 is strange.
I mean, he's always said. Since these were announced, there was going to be 4.
I know, but I'm just
to
saying.
change that now would be weird, but it's not unheard
Well,
of.
they want more money.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, Andrew,
So
your thoughts
okay.
on the rebuilds?
Okay, so it hasn't ended yet, so we can't start comparing endings.
Well, no.
So from about 3/4 of the way into the show compared to this part, the first half, 1 and 2 are excellent movies. I love those movies. I bought them on Blu-ray because I'm no, I want to own these because these are actually really, really good. They're really interesting retellings of the show, which I really like the show, as we discovered. So,
Right.
To see this story be told in a much more narratively satisfying and cohesive version in the first 2
Right.
made me very happy because I'm oh my god, this is everything that I wanted out of this. Awesome. TV Tropes describes Ava, the entire rebuild series, as Ava but on proper medication, which I think is kind of an apt explanation for this. 3.0 disappointed me because they weren't going. You were right; they were going such a good direction, and then they kind of took the left turn, but not such a hard left turn that it end of Ava levels bad. Not such a hard left turn that it upset me because there's still
So
enough hope that this could go.
Are you saying you don't necessarily think it's bad? You just don't know what to think of it because it threw such a curveball at you?
It's not even the curveball. I am on Alex's side is because there is not enough bad in it to make it a bad movie, but there's enough good to keep it from being a bad movie.
But I think part of the reason why overall it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth is because the bad part of it is the third act, which is what you end the movie
which is what you
on.
end it because the first 2/3 are actually still a pretty good movie.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the first act has its fair share of problems, but that
Yes,
middle part with Shinji and Karu, high point of the movie, very well executed. I will stand by that.
Even watching it, I think watching again, other than the Nemesis problem, which we never really get explained, the first 2/3 I actually really liked. I actually think it was going along as a
but
pretty good
my point being
movie.
that 3.0 leaves you with the sour taste in your
It
mouth
does.
because the last act is what you end on, and that's the problem part.
Yes, that is the problem part, and the really only big problem is Shinji catches the idiot ball for all of 2 minutes, and then that just sets off the entire plot for the back for the back third of the movie, and that is a problem. I agree. I do think that this can be redeemed though. We're not at this point yet. We're no, we're gonna write this whole thing off now. We're at this point where this can wrap back around to being a good thing.
Yes.
So yeah.
I'm just gonna laugh if 4.0 or 3.0 plus 1 comes out and it's the ending isn't satisfying, and it's well, Ava fans have had 3 chances to have a good ending and they will have not gotten it any of the 3 times.
I like the first ending, but whatever. So
I know, but you admitted it left a lot of things open. It wasn't
does.
a true ending.
It wasn't, and this hopefully is it.
I hope
so,
it is too. I'd like for it to be that way. I just don't I'm not sure it will be. I don't have faith.
But I do think 2.0 is the strongest of the series because it has the most character development. You do see like Shinji and Rei and Asuka like develop over, and that's actually really impressive for a movie. I think to like juggle 3 characters because I really do think Asuka does show a genuine amount of growth, even though she's not in it. Like,
no, she definitely does.
As much as like you think. So I think there's like a lot to be said about like the writing being really strong in that movie, and then like the end plot twist because like that even throws like Ava fans through a loop.
Yeah.
So
although I would say the whole thing about developing 3 characters, you're developing 3 characters, but not all in one movie. They're building off of what they established with Rei and Shinji in 1.0. So it's not like they're starting from base one with them.
They're starting from one, but like it's kind of like in this is not like don't get mad at me about this, but it's kind of like an Empire.
I knew you were going to say Empire.
Well, because they develop 3 characters in Empire because Han and Leia have to develop as people to make their relationship work, and Luke has to develop to become a Jedi. So that movie handles 3 characters really well over 2 hours.
It does.
In this movie, also handles 3 characters really well over 2 hours, despite the fact that 2 of them are based off of what the previous movie had set up. But I think it works.
Right.
It's a solid movie. Those movies, first 2, excellent movies. I love them. Third movie, like you said, third act kind of a problem.
Right.
But not irredeemable.
Chase, what are your thoughts on the rebuilds?
Funny you're talking about Star Wars. I just read something about George Lucas saying that movies nowadays are more and more like circuses without any substance behind it.
All right.
Interesting. Sounds like words that someone said.
Sometimes,
it
yes.
does. But rebuilds, Chase, what are your thoughts on the 3 rebuilds?
1.0 is a very fine substitute of the first 6 episodes, but it still offers enough substance and differences that I still hardly recommend it to anyone who wants to see it, whether or not they're an Evangelion fan. 2.0 has a lot of very fascinating artistic choices that I very much appreciate, and I very much enjoy that as well. 3.0 has a lot to say about the Evangelion franchises as a whole and about the character of both Karu and everyone else. That's probably why that's my favorite. So of the 3, that's the one that makes me think, the one I probably come back and think about the most. And of course, goes without saying that all 3 movies has amazing soundtracks that I still find myself coming back to here and there.
Soundtracks are amazing. I would like to hear just a quick thought on that, because I think all 3 of us say 2.0 is better than 3.0. Why do you think 3.0 is the best of the rebuilds?
Well, I've actually thought about this when 3.0 first came out, but I kind of have like a different perspective about Evangelion compared to like most anime fans, because the thing is that I kind of went into it when I was like 16 and kind of have like animes behind my back, so I like after my initial shock with the franchise, I kind of know what I was getting into. Like with the first movie, it was basically me re-experiencing with the franchise again, kind of getting my bearings with the characters, and I ended up liking them. Second movie is just me kind of coming in terms of like the story Studio Car was trying to go into, and it turns out that I was very, very interested in what kind of story they were talking about. But then with 3.0, when the story changes, it turns out that it has a lot of things to say about, how Karu interacts with people, how Shinji's reactions to his characters and the world around him, and basically what Studio Car has to probably say about Japanese society as a whole. And it turns out that, at least from my perspective, I feel like that of the 3 movies, 3.0 kind of has the one that has the most meat in it, or the one that kind of has a lot more to say, both story-wise and characterization-wise than the last 2 movies. So, and I just find them to be very fascinating and very thought-provoking.
And I will give Anno credit in that, the rebuilds were supposed to, be different from Evangelion, and 1.0, not very different. 2.0, a mix of new and old. 3.0, vastly different. I mean, I can appreciate the fact that he had the balls to do something so radically different from anything the franchise had done before. Now, I don't think it was executed quite as well as it should have been, or could have been, maybe, but I can still appreciate the fact that he was willing to take a creative risk like that. Benny, what are your thoughts on the 3 movies?
My favorite's probably the second one. I did like the third one, but I agree with Andrew that it got to the point where it was just like, what's happening right now? And that, while that doesn't turn me off from it, it does take away from my just overall like of it, because I don't know what's going on. And I also just liked the episodic feel that 2 had. It didn't really have a full plot line going through. It was just kind of a story of like an everyday life, like this is what it's like, and it felt like you were getting a glimpse of that world and not just a glimpse of a story.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. So this wraps up our conversation on Ava. You know, we've been on kind of an Ava train.
For
doing,
like ever, I guess, right?
well, I certainly will be gone by the time.
Oh, dude, I'll be gone
3.0
by the
plus
time 3.0 plus 1.0
I
comes
might
out.
still be here.
So our successors must talk
Benny,
about
you're in charge of that.
3.0 plus 1.0.
I'll come back for that one episode.
I'd come back for that one episode.
We'll travel all the way to Athens just to talk about
The
it.
reunion
I will not.
episode.
Fun.
All right.
I
So we're going to be coming back to you, I don't know, in a week or two. I think after we finish the podcast here, we'll talk a little bit about what we want to do for next time because there's a few options before us because, you know, when we came back this semester, I wanted to do Korra. I knew I wanted to do the rebuilds,
And we
you know,
did those.
Bebop.
And we've done all three.
We
of
have
those
done
things.
all those things.
We
So
have,
now
we have done all the things we set out to do. All right, pack it up, guys. Going on.
we're going home. No, so now the road is wide open to us. We can do whatever we want. So we'll talk about that.
I can't.
But I don't maybe want to do Akira.
I wanna
But
watch it.
for those of you who enjoyed this podcast, you can email us at techheads@avwproductions.com. You can follow us on Twitter at techheadsou. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us good ratings and reviews. We like hearing from you guys.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Indeed.
Or
so,
high five us. That'd be nice too. I like high fives.
I do like high fives. You know, virtual high fives, digital high fives.
Woo! Or
right.
real high fives, as you can find me.
So thank you all for listening, and
Good
we will
luck with that part.
we will see you guys later. Congratulations.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Bye-bye.
This product is copyright AVW Productions 2014.